Sorry, I don't have a gavel this evening, but I will call the meeting to order. And this is our second meeting in Oregon City's new City Hall. And today is Wednesday, December the 2nd. Good evening. I'm Alice Norris, the mayor.
Good evening, Daphne West, Commission President.
City Commissioner James Nasita.
City Commissioner Doug Nooney.
Rocky Smith, Commissioner.
Would you please stand and join me in the flag salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our new City Hall. If this is your first visit, we are just completing in Oregon our 150th year of statehood, and to that end, what we've been doing here at the City Commission is giving you a sesquicentennial moment, a moment that, something that's rare and interesting about Oregon City's history. And tonight I found a newspaper article from January 10th, 1954, from the Enterprise Courier, and I think you'll find it really interesting considering that we are here in a new City Hall in this location. And this is what it says at the bottom of this drawing. Here's a bird's eye view of what Oregon City's Civic Center will look like in about 25 years if city planners go ahead with gradual program of buying up property sites and step-by-step building plans. Shaded buildings would comprise a modern civic center. Tree-lined streets running to the elevator would be 6th Street, while Central Park is the present park site and location of the public library. Present City Hall and Police Station fronting on John Adams Street would be replaced by a modern structure running the length of the block between 7th and 6th. The library would be moved 1 block southeast to a site in the lower left-hand of the drawing. Ultra-modern structure fronting on 6th Street of the Central Square is a proposed Veterans Memorial Auditorium, while the building to the left is the proposed Historical Museum. Other buildings grouped around the square are county and public service offices. Note that planners have included more provisions for adequate parking. Also note that present historical buildings, far right, will be retained. City planner Cy Nims says all necessary public buildings will be grouped together around the beautiful public square. Buildings will follow a similar architectural plan. So what goes around comes around. We've been talking about a public plaza, and I always love it how history repeats itself, or maybe it's coming to pass. But that's this evening's sesquicentennial moment. And then another first for this building, Jesse Rao gets to be our first officer sworn in our new City Hall. So if you would join Chief Conrad and I up here, we will do the official duties. Chief, you want to talk first?
Sure. I'd like everybody to meet Jesse Rao. Jesse is our newest police officer here. He has been with the department as a community service officer beginning last August, and became our newest hired regular full-time officer here about a month ago. Jesse graduated from Canby High School. He attended the interagency Clackamas County Reserve Academy, and he is a reserve officer with Molalla Police Department for 3 years prior to coming over to our police department. And I believe tonight in the audience, his mother Vicky's here. Vicky, his sister Jasmine, and his father William is here also, I believe.
Did you bring your cameras? Good.
You're more than welcome to come up and take some pictures as this goes on.
Yes, please do that. Okay, are you ready?
I am.
All right, please raise your hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Jesse Rowe,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will uphold the law
that I will uphold the law
and support the Constitution of the United States
and support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Oregon.
and the state of Oregon.
I will abide by
I will abide by
the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics
the Law Enforcement Code of Ethics
and the Department Rules and Regulations
and the Department Rules and Regulations
while faithfully performing
while faithfully performing
my duties as police officer
my duties as a police officer
for Oregon City, Oregon.
for Oregon City, Oregon.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome. close for one more. You get it?
I hope so.
Thank you. So, Chief, while we're waiting for him to look at his picture, so how many officers do we have now?
We have 38 with one more to be hired, so it would give us 39 officers. We hire one more officer. And so we're getting there. We're getting close. Getting up to where we need to be, and really nice to have these extra people here. One of the things about Jesse is that he is not scheduled to go to the academy until March 1st, so he's going to start his training, his department training a little bit sooner than normal, and go to the academy March 1st. He's in the academy for 4 months. So probably by the time he's out riding around in a patrol car by himself, we're probably talking about the middle of summer. So it's a little while before he gets back out there. So.
Congratulations to the department, and congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Great.
Alice, can I make a little joke here?
Sure. Commissioner West.
Madam Mayor, do you have a majority vote to have this, I think, beaver sitting up here on the dais?
I know nothing about that.
Oh, well,
It is the prerogative of the mayor to decorate the council chambers, and you know we serve as nonpartisan except when the Ducks and Beavers play.
well,
So
I believe
I make no apologies.
I believe the charter states that the mayor may appoint members to advisory committees and set the order of agenda. I have no recollection of any other powers authorized in the charter. However,
You're not going to read the charter.
I will happily move to have any symbol of a cow college presented here at this institution.
I second your motion. So okay, let's move on to serious business.
I can't have my mascot. My mascot's extinct.
It is. What is it?
It's a golden bear.
Oh, yeah.
State bear, California on the flag. It's extinct.
Okay. All right. Another thing that's happening this evening, so you may have to bear with us a little bit. This is our first night to go paperless. We have monitors here, and that's that have the agenda on it and have all of the documents that you see. Also tell us who's going to speak and in what order. And tonight, when you come up here, please, to speak, you have up to 3 minutes, and you can self-monitor because this should be your countdown. So it'll start at 3 minutes and go back down to 0. So hopefully you'll be able to see it. Oh, and I moved those microphones. So thank you, Tony, if you move those back. So tonight, bear with us as we work out the bugs in this wireless system, which is part of our LEED certification that we're seeking for this facility. Okay, moving right along then, the next item on the agenda is citizen comment. And I see that we have one person signed up to speak. If you wish to speak, the cards are in the back. Then you may give those to Nancy Ide, our city recorder. And by the power of computers and magic, she already has Karen Morey's name listed as the first speaker, followed by Mike Trout. So, thank you. And again, just to remind you, we have the same shtick as we did in the other building. You please state your name and the city in which you reside, and then you may speak to us.
Karen Morey. I live outside of the city of Oregon City, and I'm here for the Friends of the Oregon City Library and the Three Rivers Artists Guild. We're inviting the City Commission and city employees and every resident of the city of Oregon City to celebrate with us this weekend as we open a new partnership. Across the street, we have expanded the Friends of the Oregon City Library bookstore and added a gallery for the Three Rivers Artists Guild. And I was noticing today, I think I can get the mayor to come shopping, we have greeting cards, including holiday cards. However, I was noticing that we have some wonderful cards for those that want to brag that they're from historic Oregon City. Several of our artists have brought for the audience behind me. Several of our artists have brought in cards with images of Oregon City. From 4 to 7 tomorrow night, we have free caricatures. We have 5 artists that will be creating art on the premises. The grand opening will continue Saturday from 11 to 6, Sunday from 12 to 5. And we are open 7 days a week, and we're hoping that everyone comes shopping. All of the proceeds from the bookstore benefit the Oregon City Library.
Thank you very much. Mike Trout, followed by Rob Crocker. Rob, if you'd like to come up, that would probably expedite.
He doesn't want to talk to this item, I think.
Oh, this is a, please remove Rob.
Oh, he is? Oh, okay.
Different item.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, excuse me, my name is Mike Trout. I live in Oregon City, and I'm the guy that has a hot dog cart. A lot of controversy about that. And the reason I'm here tonight is that, first of all, I want to thank you for giving me my right-of-way permit, which is good through November of 2010. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. One of my concerns was when I went in to pick up my business license, which I thought I was supposed to get at no charge along with the right-of-way permit at no charge. I did get the right-of-way permit at no charge. But when I went to pick up the business license, I was told that it would be $37.50 and the license would expire 12 of 31, the last day of the month of this year. And I understand that the licenses run from December through December, but I was under the impression when I was here that what was approved was that my license would be issued through the year 2010. And so I declined to pick up the license. The city manager said that there was a problem with the audio or something, and he was going to check into it. Okay, I haven't heard anything back about that from anybody. I've also checked with Nancy Kreschauer's office, and I've called about 3 or 4 times. I want to say 3 for sure, maybe 4. And there's been 1 return phone call in the beginning, and no other contact at all. So what I wanted to do is if I go out there and operate my cart, I don't have any protection against the elements. I need to have a 10 by 10 or something over my head where it's going to protect me from the elements, the rain, and that type of thing. And so I'm kind of getting the runaround about that from Oregon City, or I'm not having any contact at all about that. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention and let you know I do appreciate the fact that you have allowed me to have the right-of-way permit. I don't take that lightly, but I just wanted to expedite things if we possibly could so I can start my business up.
Okay,
that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Did you want to make a comment to that?
My understanding at the last meeting was that what you waived, and again, my understanding in terms of the right-of-way permit was that was issued before, and all you're doing is just reaffirming that and expanding that. What you waived was any increase in the fee of that right-of-way permit, but business license would still have to be acquired. That is a prorated fee that Mr. Trout has indicated, which is $37.50 through the end of the year. And unless there's other direction, you still needs to acquire the business license. And at the last meeting, we did talk about the tent, and the commission, my impression of that, they said no to that.
That's my impression as well. You need to poke that list. I'm going to see your name up there.
Okay, first.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Nuts.
Sorry, we're playing with our screens.
Yeah, they don't even know what we're doing up here. We're playing video games or something.
No, we are not.
So my question was, because I was going to go back to look on, the tape for that meeting hasn't been posted online.
Right.
So none of us have really been able to watch
to
it.
it,
So we're relying on emails, at least in my opinion, from memory about what we said at that meeting. But I don't know, has anyone actually gone back and listened to what we said about especially the tent issue, and I've been wanting to go back to look at that, but we haven't had access to it. So I think we really need to look at that and say, what did we actually... So we have the tape, right? And it's going to be put on the online soon. But no one from the staff has looked at that.
I haven't had a chance to look at it, no.
So we're just relying on emails from Emily, whether or not...
We've kind of chatted about what everyone's recollection was that, but again, just going from my memory of last meeting is what we were actually talking about waiving was the increase in the fee that's been proposed.
That's my understanding as well. You need to put your button. There you go, Commissioner Neely.
I think we must have done it simultaneously. Rocky and I got canceled.
I canceled.
You just have to be... It's kind of like Jeopardy. You have to be really quick.
Anyway, I think there are a few of us here on the commission that have businesses licenses as well, and we got them prorated, depending on when we came on with our businesses. I didn't believe that we were doing anything other than that on the business license thing. I don't think that was actually the topic of the motion. In fact, there were several emails that went back and forth, but I don't think any of them indicated that they felt we took any kind of action on the business license.
So that clarifies, if anyone has a different recollection.
Well, are you going to be checking the official record then?
No, I think we just clarified it here. None of us...
I will be checking.
Yeah, we can look at the tape.
Because I would hate to say we're because we don't necessarily know unless we look.
Well, or we can reaffirm. I mean, because that's, I think what we're talking about is what our intent was. So I hear no difference in that. Well, so I guess when we check the tape, staff will get back to you. Okay. But I see no interest here in paying for the business license tax or business license fee if the tape shows similar.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm what was said.
One of the concerns, we haven't actually set up anything in terms of how the linear card system's going to work in Oregon City. I'd be very concerned if we permitted 10 by 10 tents to go up. If there was a huge umbrella that we could, use or something of that nature, I think that would go very well with it. But these, what do they call them, pop-up tents or whatever they are, I haven't
had any luck getting any response back from Nancy Krushour's office at all.
Yeah, I think the Downtown Association's working on some design standards as well. So I don't really want to spend too much more time on this topic since it's not on the agenda, but Commissioner West is next. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I believe I recollect what I said. It was only 2 weeks ago, if I think, and my concerns were with the tent and waiting for our design standards to be done, and I do not recollect. So I'm just saying, do we need to put this off any longer? Or I do not recollect waiving a business license fee.
Well,
Got to press this one first.
Commissioner Nocita.
I, on the other hand, specifically thought that we did not agree, and I think it was a 3-2 vote, to tie this business license and this project to any design standards.
We didn't.
We didn't.
We didn't. That's right.
I'm just saying
She was reiterating her view.
So I don't know what is the forum in which to determine whether a tent or an umbrella is allowed or not?
Right. Nancy Krushour, our Public Works Director.
Commissioner, if I recall, the right-of-way permit is for the cart, and it definitively addresses the kinds of standards that are approved for this particular cart. So we're using that document to approve that right-of-way application. That does not include approval of a tent.
Okay, what does it allow? What does the right-of-way person allow?
It allows an umbrella.
There were a list of standards in the old.
Yes. it's the same packet you've probably seen before. But that was a specific right-of-way permit. It referenced those standards which haven't been adopted, that permit application, which haven't been, that policy has not been adopted by the commission yet, but that right-of-way permit was very well defined.
Okay, Mr. Childs, is that, you have the right-of-way permit, have you reviewed it?
I do have the right-of-way permit.
And do you have any issue with what Ms. Krushauer has just stated as far as what the permit itself allows you?
I was under the impression that as of, what was it, middle of summer, when everything started going down, that they were going to check into, I told her I'd need a tent for the wintertime, or I would need something to protect me from the rain in the wintertime. And I didn't hear anything back after I was basically shut down the first time. So my question is temporarily, to get me working, could I put up, you say a 10 by 10 is too big. Could you tell me what would be acceptable?
Okay.
Because the umbrella that I have is...
The umbrella is in the code, so you'll have to work with our staff on it.
But the problem is that nobody wants to do anything in a timely manner. So here I'm left holding the ball. I'm left holding the ball, and I've invested in this equipment, and I did this in good faith. And anybody in their right mind is going to get out and get in the rain and catch cold. I don't want to do that. It's not fair to expect me to do that, and I won't do that. So maybe that's the problem here, is that I'm between a rock and a hard spot, and I'm just asking that fairness apply here, and I'm not asking for something to deface the city property or anything. Just keep me dry. That's all. And a 10 by 10 tent would do that.
Okay, this isn't on the agenda for discussion tonight, so until our standards change, you and any other vendor who applies has to meet those adopted code standards.
The question on the standards, is there anything specific on the size of the umbrella that can be used?
I thought so.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
There are distances, what it specifies is distances from
the curb.
distances from buildings, distances from doorways, and then it also talks about the size of the cart and what can be attached to the cart, and it allows for that. And I don't think it specifies the size.
Okay.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. We'll have
Thank
to
you.
move on now. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay. I have no other speakers signed up to speak on this under citizen comment. Okay, seeing none, then, did you?
I keep hearing people say tent, but, I mean, does that preclude a KD canopy?
Yeah.
Because an umbrella is crazy in the driving rain.
Yeah. Well,
I don't care how big it is, it's crazy in the driving rain.
we'll have to change the standards if we're going to go that way. So that's kind of where we're working. So, okay, I see no finish with citizen comments, so let's look at the agenda for the evening then. We all know how to do that. Is there anybody that needs anything changed or rearranged this evening? We don't have much on the consent agenda, so hearing nothing, we will take the agenda in the order in which it appears.
You mean it wasn't a lengthy agenda, not that there wasn't much on the agenda?
No, consent agenda.
Consent
agenda. Okay, the first item of general business, I believe maybe why the majority of you are here this evening, and that is a carryover item from 2 weeks ago, and this is our opportunity to deliberate on an appeal from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association to on a call-up from the Planning Commission's decision that was made on August 13th that approved the Public Works facility and concept plan. So we've held that over, and Tony, welcome back, and our condolences go with you.
Thank you very much.
So this evening, we do not expect to take public testimony. That's my understanding. And we've already gone over the conflict of interest bias rules required by the rules of the hearing in our city code. So this is an opportunity then for discussion between staff, who in this case is our senior planner, Tony Conkle, and ourselves as we move toward a decision. So, Tony.
Madam Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Nocita.
I think I should speak before Mr. Conkle commences. I actually have 3 new ex parte contacts that I'd like to put on the record.
This is
appropriate,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
Proceed.
Okay. Here's the first. After the last hearing, Mr. Mabee approached me and indicated that he had considered challenging me for bias. And his statement was to the effect that my property values, because I think I'm the closest commissioner to the actual site, might be affected, I think my recollection, he said, in a negative way by this project, and therefore I might have bias issues in hearing his appeal. So I just wanted to mention that, and I should also probably state that that really had never occurred to me. And without some appraisal, I have no way of knowing whether this project would increase my property values or decrease my property values, but I actually think I'm sufficiently far away from the project that I think I'm kind of value neutral on that matter. Second ex parte contact, the other 2 occurred today. In advance of this hearing, I took a walk up to the site just to walk around and check it out. And on my way there, one of my neighbors caught up to me with his 2 dogs and started chatting me up, and we had a conversation, and I told him I was going up to the site to review it, but I couldn't talk about it. And I kept insisting with him that I couldn't talk about it. And despite my insistence that I couldn't talk about it, he had to get in his 2 cents and told me that, in his opinion, there was insufficient room for expansion on the site. So having gotten his 2 cents in, he was satisfied. The third ex parte contact I do want to report is that while I was at the north end of the upper site, I did notice that most of the trees on the north end of the upper site around the basalt rock cropping and around that north end of the upper site seemed to be Oregon white oak. And with interesting coincidence, Mr. Jerry Herman, who had been in a meeting, I guess, in the armory with somebody, and while I was looking up at these trees, he hollered from the entry of the armory because he had noticed me there. And I said, "Hey, come here." And I told him I was going to disclose this as an ex parte contact. And I said, "Can you confirm to me that these are Oregon white oaks?" And he looked up and, spent some time looking around. He said, "Yeah, these are Oregon white oaks." And so that's the third ex parte contact I wanted to disclose.
Okay.
Mr. Geisman.
Does anybody have any challenge to those ex parte contacts? The one other issue I would note is, in talking about property values, that does bring up conflict of interest concerns, because the Oregon Government Ethics Code prevents you from taking action on something that would be a fiduciary benefit or detriment to you, and it could be interpreted that the property values, regardless of whether they go up or down, could be a financial benefit or detriment. But there's an exemption for classes, that if you're in a class of people who are all going to be affected, that you can in fact participate. And given the size of the neighborhood affected, I would expect that this is the type of class that would qualify for that exemption from the ethics concerns.
Commissioner Smith.
Just occurs to me, I've already said I live in the McLaughlin neighborhood, but it never occurred to me that this might be an issue, but it might be an issue. I do tours of the McLaughlin neighborhood, walking tours. What about that?
And I guess would the adoption of this master plan have an effect? I mean, my initial thinking, knowing nothing about the tourism business, that
I
the
would
fact
think
that there's an expansion.
but so I'm going to say that, but I don't.
Right. And I guess that would fall into, there's the actual where it will have one, and then its potential, in which case, in that conflict of interest, you disclose it, and you can still participate as long as you disclose it. So that's the appropriate course.
Okay. Any other disclosures at this point? All right, thank you. Tony?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Evening, Commissioners. Nancy, can we put the overhead up, please? I'll turn on the PowerPoint.
I thought you had it up on.
It's up on here. It's not projecting.
I'll have to get it for you.
Okay. Okay, so since the last time we met, the record was closed and the final rebuttal by the Public Works Director was submitted into the record. I think I'd just like to recap that this did go in front of the Planning Commission. They did approve it 5-0. It was brought in front of the Historic Review Board. They did agree with and recommend conditions of approval and approve the language for certain adjustments to certain Historic Review Board criteria for the buildings on the upper site only, and that the buildings on the lower site along Center Street would go in front of the Historic Review Board if any future development were to take place on that site. And the overhead is coming on, so you would be able to view this on your screens. There was some discussion, there's been quite a bit of discussion about the acreage of the site.
Yes, your toggle.
Yeah.
The bottom, what I'll call the lower site, which when I did the acreage calculation, was everything below the basalt cliff, was approximately 1.17 acres. So that would include the Cameron Building, the existing Public Works facility on Center Street, and the 2 parking lots across the street. The upper site, which is the tax lot that we currently own, plus this one tax lot along First Street, is approximately 3.9 acres. So what Oregon City, what we currently own, is approximately 5.03 acres. The addition of the Armory at the later stages of development would add another 2.19 acres, making for a total of 7.21 acres total acreage available. We've been using the 5 acres and half of that being developable because that's what we currently own right now. But we are allowed to include properties not under the ownership of the applicant in master plans if they are scheduled for future acquisition. There was also some questions about the timing of the zoning in this area. The Center Street parking lots. Prior to 2004, they were zoned what was called McLaughlin conditional. It was an old zoning designation that had been in place for quite some time. In June of '04, when we made our first round of changes to the code, the 2 Center Street parking lots were not changed. They remained R3.5. McLaughlin conditional became R3.5 throughout the city. In July of this year, those 2 properties were changed to institutional. The Cameron Building at 116 Center Street was originally R6. It did not change to institutional until July of '09. I believe that we didn't have ownership of that property back in June of 2004. The Armory site and the Public Works current facility site, so these 2 tax lots right here, were zoned R6 prior to 2004, R6 single-family residential. But you're well aware of the history of this site in terms of how long both those facilities have been located there. And they were changed to institutional in June of 2004. That includes both this site and the Armory. And then this 520 First Street was a later acquisition. It was R6 until such time as it was changed to institutional in July of '09 of this year. Concerning the Cameron Building, we do have an inventory form. What it looks like happened in 2002, and I've worked with Christina Robertson Gardner, our historic resource planner. it looks like the inventories for 122 and 118, the Cameron building were combined. And what it states is that it's a typical WPA project type of concrete structure, rectangular with a flat roof. It looks like a concrete building with an arched roof was probably added to the structure in the 1940s. So that's directly talking about the arched roof that's on the Cameron building was a later addition. It was originally designed as a flat roof. At some point, it looks like in the 1940s, the arched roof was added. But what it does say is that it's not. It was not designated. It's not a historical structure, either of those buildings. There were also quite a few pictures that were submitted. There were some pictures submitted concerning old rock walls or foundations that may exist up on the site. And then you can see this is the site plan that's in the packet that was provided and prepared by the applicant. And what you'll actually see, if we could zoom in on this, and I apologize, is it talks about a rock wall. And the pictures that you see, I believe, are this rock wall. I've gone back out to the site and looked for other foundations of a historic building. I believe these are the pictures that were submitted. As part of the conditions of approval from the Planning Commission was this whole area right here is going to be protected as a natural landscaped, vegetated area. They're not going to go in and do any grading in there. It's going to be protected in that state. This rock wall is not going to be disturbed as part of this project. In talking with Christina and Ms. White, the assistant archaeologist at SHPO, if it is this commission's feels additional safeguards are necessary, we have crafted a condition that SHPO did review and would approve that if we can certainly enter that in the record for your consideration. We don't believe there's anything else on the site.
What would that condition be?
Yeah.
This is what has been referred to as the foundation?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I believe that this is it. Yes, it was identified on the plans. It's not designated. It's in an area that's going to be protected, and we could certainly add another condition that both Ms. Robertson and SHPO have looked, State Historic Preservation Society has looked at, if you feel that that's necessary to add.
And the condition would say what?
Prior to grading the foundation site, the city shall consult the State Historic Preservation Office to determine the proper amount of monitoring needed. If monitoring is suggested by the State Historic Preservation Office, the city will provide the necessary reporting to that office of the results of that monitoring. And what they would be monitoring and looking for is that if there was grading in there and that wall was removed, what they're looking for is if there's anything unique around there. What you usually see is, obviously we have numerous farmhouses in the area, and if you start to excavate them, you'll run into farm implement material. It would probably be a 1 or 2 page documentation that was found on the site, and then the work continues. If you found something that was completely unexpected and not seen in Oregon anywhere else, additional resources would be put in that site to document it, and then take the necessary steps and then move forward from that. So, in requiring documentation, if they go in and do any work around that foundation, this condition would guarantee that would happen.
Okay, thank you.
I could certainly be happy to answer any questions you have. I wasn't sure if you had any, or I didn't recall any, and I didn't have a chance to review the last meeting, so I will be happy to try and answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions? I see Commissioner Neely in the queue.
Well, that was queued up before, but that's okay. I would just simply comment, I did have some questions that I don't think it's a conflict of interest, that I did send to you and to Mrs. Krushauer, and you've answered those questions, I believe. The Anchorage one is when I posed to Mrs. Krushauer, and I don't know if she forwarded it to you or not, but those are questions. Some of those were questions that I had put forward earlier.
Okay. Yeah, they were forwarded to me by Ms. Krushauer, yes.
Any questions at this point?
I do. I'm trying to figure out how.
I beat you.
You're not there.
Need little
You're not
lights.
queued. Okay, you have to push on the active item, and then request to speak.
Since I've requested.
I don't see
I've requested
Rocky.
in the wrong spot.
Rocky's
Oh, there you
I'm
are.
right here.
There you go. Okay, Commissioner Smith. Got it.
It's like ordering something at fast food in a drive-thru. So the condition from SHPO, because as you're talking about it, you were, it almost sounded like that was just for the site with the, is this for the entire site?
We can
Or
certainly
just
make
for-
it that way if you would like.
Okay. But what you were speaking about was specifically to the area with the rock.
That's the only one that we've identified and that we're aware of. We could certainly put a blanket one on there that says, if you happen to find anything.
On the site, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Commissioner West?
Maybe maybe you can answer too, Tony, is, would you, I didn't know how to bridge the information from the LiDAR or the, that report compared to our geotech report. So those looked like they were a complete contrast with each other. So can you help me with that one, or how to reframe that, or?
And you're referring to the LiDAR that was submitted into the record?
That Ms. Roth had submitted.
We're looking at the site itself, the subject site. The site's has a basalt foundation. There's no steep slopes on the site. There's no water resources on the site. We're not showing anything that indicates a slide hazard, which is something that we would regulate. We have a steep slopes code that addresses development on steep slopes. It's not applicable in this situation. Is there potential that there's going to be sliding or sloughing up in Waterboard Park to the south of the subject site? Obvious that the land up there is moving. But I don't. There's nothing in our code that would direct me to deny this application because of something that's happening on an adjacent property. We do not have in our code an identified slide hazard on the site.
Thank you.
Commissioner Neely?
Yes, you referred to none of these structures being in our inventory. In the 1970s, I believe it was, when the local inventory listing was developed, it was only developed on residential properties. The business community did not want any of their commercial. They indicated that they would go through their own process and make recommendations, I believe, but that never occurred. And so none of these buildings would be, but I think we've got to be sensitive to the potential historic significance of any of these buildings, and I just want to put that up front. I'm going to allude to it a little bit later, but since particularly the city went ahead and developed the inventory, I think we should be sensitive in terms of properties that are on city, buildings, structures that are on city properties.
And I know that was a concern both at staff level and in front of the Historic Review Board. There is requirements for the documentation, the deconstruction of all those buildings on the upper site to acknowledge the historical significance of those buildings. We don't have a no demolition code requirement, and what's difficult is, out of one time, I'm trying to address the land use criteria and realizing that as the elected body of Oregon City, you can certainly say we're going to protect those buildings because we think it's the right thing to do. So I guess most of my comments are really directed towards the approval criteria that I'm trying to address through the staff report.
Okay. Tony, the staff report, I think in response to the Planning Commission discussion, suggested that the condition that you just mentioned, and I believe that there was one more, that there was some concern by citizens about the glass on the building and the fact that it might be glare, that it might cause a glare in the neighborhood. And so it appeared that that staff would be open to adding no glare glass on the facility. So could you respond to that?
Right, and I think what we're finding as we do these master plans is one of the hardest things is to, how much detail do you provide?
Yeah.
And the master plan was really intended to address the larger infrastructure impacts and any adjustments necessary, because our code is really written up for single lot development. It's not developed for a large development like this where you have multiple buildings throughout the site serving different functions, and that's where you get into the adjustment process. So the applicant needed to show some potential of a building, realizing that it's non-binding for the office building on Center Street, and that they need to come back in and go through the land use process again, where they would be going through site plan design review. It would need to meet all of our design criteria, and it would need to go in front of the Historic Review Board for their review to make sure it met the historic design guidelines in the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. So while we understand, we could certainly put a no glare window requirement as a condition of approval right now. I think it's a little premature, and I don't think it would be approved. I don't think it would get through Historic Review Board at a later date if this were to actually come to fruition later down the road. So it's difficult because we are requesting adjustments to certain heights, which the Planning Commission has recommended we do for the building along Center Street, but the applicant still needs to come back and receive land use approvals both through the Site Plan Design Review and the Historic Review Board. So while we've given them that adjustment, it doesn't mean that they can meet the Historic Review design guides and build it. And unfortunately, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I believe in the update to the code in 2000 that we just did we specifically talk about glare windows because it is one of our transparency requirements. We could certainly add it if that's the issue.
I appreciate that explanation that this may be the wrong part of the process to talk about that level of detail. This is really a site plan, a master plan, and that's good reminder.
But if that level of detail is something that makes folks everyone comfortable, we can certainly do it right now.
Okay. Commissioner Smith.
Just a couple more questions about historic inventory. We're relying on the inventory forms for most of this, right? This information, these decisions. The inventory forms. The inventory was created. You said 1970s,
I believe.
And how often is it updated? I mean, it wasn't updated until just 2009, right? Was it updated before that?
I believe the process started around 2001. We did another inventory in 2002.
Okay.
Right, but we rely on what's adopted in the code.
Okay, so I was just checking the timing of that. Because, and I have looked at inventory forms for the city, and one of which was for the Ermitainer House, which is a city-owned building. And the inventory form is completely incorrect. On even some basic historical facts about the house, everyone in the city knows that the historic Ermitainer House has been moved twice, but on the inventory form it says it's never been moved. So if we're relying on inventory forms that this city has created, and even the few that I've looked at are completely incorrect, I'm concerned about that. So my question is even if we have a condition where SHPO is kind of overseeing this, aren't they just relying on our inventory forms too?
Well, I guess I would say Exhibit 2A of the applicants. This is the original application. This is going to go back into the PC packet. It's the Public Works Department Master Plan Concept Development Plan, Exhibit 2A, where they submitted inventories for each of the buildings on the site, historic inventory forms. This was reviewed by the Historic Review Board. It's going to be difficult to find. It's going to be
we don't have it on our screen. It's on previous. It came
in a
previously.
packet.
Yeah.
That's okay.
What If you'd like, I can hand these
Find the
out.
inventory forms.
Well, go ahead and describe. You're describing.
But I guess I'm just saying, is that October 24th, 2004, they completed historic review of the buildings on the site. It was submitted as part of the application. It was reviewed by both staff as well as the Historic Review Board. And the conditions were written by Historic Review Board in response to the information that they reviewed specifically about those buildings.
But how do we know whether they're correct? How do we know that they're right and accurate?
I guess we're relying on an expert in historic preservation to
Right.
put together his expert opinion to be reviewed by our Historic Review Planner and the Historic Review Board that made the recommendation, and then the
Right.
Planning Commission. And
Can I tell you that several months before I ran for city commission, I got a phone call from a city staff person who was asking me which buildings on Main Street were historic buildings, and I had to ask the staff person again who they worked for because I couldn't believe I heard it correctly. And they work for the city. So that's, I had several phone calls within a week with city people asking me questions, and I was like, I can't believe they don't know the answers. So that, based on the inventory forms that I've looked at, I'm not confident that just because we're relying on the inventory forms that they're right, and that it's really saying what's there. And if I felt comfortable, so I agree that I think it's important to have a condition regarding the historic buildings and the site in general. But I'm not sure that a condition, even with SHPO's helping or supervising, is going to help, because my question is, what are they relying on? They're relying on our forms. Isn't that right?
we have existing forms. We have another consultant who's updated and reviewed it. It's gone to the...
I think you said that already. But
I-
but it doesn't, we have forms that are inaccurate, completely inaccurate. So how do we know that these ones are accurate? We don't. We don't.
But the fact that they go through a level of review, that hopefully they'll find people like you that know some of the history that can be checked and corroborated. And history is always being uncovered, so hopefully we can respond to it when we find. That was good. Mr. Geisman.
If I can give a perspective, I guess, one thing that the land use system tries to do is you can never get everything right, whether it's floodplain, steep slopes, historic, and what the balance that our system has struck is that we're going to adopt these inventories, and there are opportunities to challenge those inventories when they were adopted, and once they're adopted, property owners can rely on those inventories, whether they're accurate or not, and what's on the inventory is what we're going to protect. If it's not on the inventory, you've got to change the inventory, and it's not during an application that you do that. So in terms of the land use process itself, you're stuck with the inventory. In terms of outside the land use process, as the owner of the property, you may well be able to do a whole bunch of things, but that's not the decision in front of you today, which is on the land use application. Does that make sense? Does it help?
Not really.
What is it that would convince you that the historic review had been done adequately?
Let me think on that.
Okay. Commissioner West.
Well, I thought I was clear on this, that with the recall... What?
Kim.
She is. She's in the queue. Yeah, she's first.
Oh, I can.
She's the only.
Jeez.
Just the point, there are different names on different screens.
That's because if you need to be on the floor. When you're on the floor, then...
Am I on the floor?
Yeah, you're in the queue. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I had a clear understanding of this process, that before we recalled the planning decision, or planning commission's decision, that, well, at that point, it was in the land use box. And I thought at the recall spot, then it was out of the land use box, and that it was anything on the table, I'll go.
No, it's still within the land use box, but Planning Commission made its decision, and that was final unless someone appealed or the City Commission called it up. When the appeal is filed, the appeal under our code is limited to a certain number of issues. Those are identified in the notice of appeal. By your calling it up, what that did was expand the number of issues that you could look at beyond what was in the notice of appeal, but it did not go outside of the land use box. It's still a land use decision that you're reviewing in this matter. Again, you're the owner of the property. You can do all kinds of stuff outside of the land use box, but for the decision tonight, you're looking at the criteria that are in the code and whether or not it meets those criteria, or the application meets those criteria or not.
And the appeal criteria as well. The appeal points.
Appeal points, right.
Normally, I'd say, yes, the appeal points that are in the notice of appeal, but because of the call-up, you're looking at everything,
frame.
The whole land use decision.
Thank you. Commissioner Neely.
Turns out there is a glitch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, you're off the hook.
The first thing is, even though we may have errors on the inventory, the fact it is on the inventory, we've got protection. And I think that's pretty critical. I am concerned about your other point, however, where if we feel that there's need to give a level of protection to structures that the city currently owns, it's on property the city currently owns, it's not on the inventory, can we take such actions to give that additional protection? The applicant is the city, but then again, we're evaluating the very body that we're the council of.
Right, and this is when you get into that the gray of what you can condition people to do. You can put, to the extent somebody doesn't object to the condition and appeal it, you can put that condition in there, and if it's tied to it. So
would the city appeal a decision by the city commission?
You'd have to authorize it.
Okay.
That answers my question. That is, we are in a position to make those kinds of judgments.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you finished your presentation then?
Yes.
All right, staff sits here to answer any questions that we might have. So,
May I make a recommendation?
Yes,
I'm
Commissioner
sure we
Neely.
all have lists, and there might be a benefit to benefit for each one of us starting off with going through the items on our list rather than going back and forth on specific items, and to kind of sort it out. Does that meet everybody's approval?
Let's let it flow as it will, but I think that's one
The
good
only
way
thing is,
to do it.
oftentimes I take a breath and you call the next person and I haven't finished.
You'll have time. Commissioner Nocita, don't breathe.
Or only exhale, right?
Right.
I have a kind of a similar request of Mr. Kabizman, informationally and procedurally. I'm wondering if we are proceeding along the same manner as, for example, LUBA might proceed. In other words, should we be, LUBA, it only takes one issue to get a remand on. If you present 10 issues, LUBA agrees with you on one issue, they remand. Should we proceed similarly by going down the criteria and just seeing how each of us feels about that particular criteria, or would it be preferable to do something as Commissioner Neely has suggested?
There's any number of different ways to do it. I mean, it's what, I guess, to identify all the criteria and go down, it may take a long time and focus on things that may not be at issue. In the same way at LUBA, they don't hit all the criteria. It's the ones, what are the concerns, and those are brought up by the appeal. You guys called it up, so you guys can identify what they are. How you do it, I think there's a variety of different ways, and what works for one may not work for the others, and that's...
Well, I will rely on the management skills of our chair, Mayor Norris, to guide us procedurally through this process then.
Okay. I think general comments would be in order, because our frame is rather large. So I think if each, speaker wishes to talk about either issues that are of concern or issues that are, I'm sure we've all brought our some ideas. So whoever wants to begin that conversation, and we'll have a give and take. Commissioner Neely's.
I'm going to start off, I have concerns, but I'm going to start off by talking about where I do not have concerns. And because we've had a lot of testimony of people that feel that such a facility should not be built in the McLaughlin neighborhood. In 2004, when we developed our master plan, I do not recommend, and I happen to be, it was my final year on the commission at that particular time for that particular period, when we adopted it, I heard no objections for zoning this area institutional. And the notion that somehow this ought to be residential or be deemed as residential in terms of any of its development, I think is a mistake. Also, there's been a lot of arguments that the main site of the public works functioning should be somewhere else, a different area in an industrial zone. Well, the institutional zoning does permit what we're about to do, and Mrs. Crushaw in her October 28th memo listed many reasons why having the public works in the McLaughlin neighborhood area is extremely important, and it's a very good listing. Some of them having to do with the emergency situations. She talks about the flood zone. I remember in the flood period very well that it was Public Works that was providing the sand for the sandbags and so forth. They were very active. Also, we're located in an area where most of the steep, and this is something that wasn't on the list, so I'm going to add it. We're located in an area, I'm saying we because I in fact live in the McLaughlin neighborhood, so the McLaughlin neighborhood is an area where most of these very steep streets occur, and we have snow and ice on the streets. Having those vehicles readily accessible because of distance is preferred rather than having it at some edge of the city that may be zoned industrial. That area is almost all near the college.
And that is on our list.
And so it is. Okay, well, I missed that, but anyway, there are various aspects of being in this very old area, challenged geological area, and having public works located in this particular area. So those are things that I do not have concerns about. I do have other concerns, but I wanted to start off there, and I'll drop off the list and come back later.
Actually, if I could just continue on that, because I thought that was also a very compelling memo that, so just to put that on the table, Nancy wrote, the oldest part of Oregon City is also the area that requires the most public works time and resources because it's the older section of town with older utilities and older and street repairs that are necessary. Commissioner Neely mentioned the closeness to the waterways and the bridges that might require emergency situations. The next thing is that the business this is an expedient proximity to our one of our business districts, and much traffic has to go through that area on the place to someplace else. So this is very accessible. She says that current operation site is outside of a mapped natural resource overlay district or wetland. We already talked about that. And a significant investment has been made to establish radio and fiber optic connectivity to that site. Next, that it is centrally located in the traffic system hub, which I think I just mentioned. and then it's located solidly on the Columbia River basalt. It's on solid ground, but it is in an area of landslides, which again makes the Public Works facility accessible to any emergencies that might arise through landslide or because of the steep slopes. That's the list. Okay, next in the queue, Commissioner Nocita.
Like Commissioner Neely, I want to talk about general, more specific issues as we go deeper into the discussion. But for better or worse, having experience in land use law and the land use system, there is kind of a big picture issue that I want to bring to the Commission's attention regarding Oregon land use law itself and the statutes. And I wrote it up in a memo that I'd like to put into the record. Commissioner West informed me that 19 pages, you don't have a memo, you have something else, but hopefully this is one page or half a page.
Memo.
It will satisfy what a memo is. And that is, in a land use, when we're acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, we take the criteria and apply the facts to them and decide whether it meets the criteria or not. Often in the land use hearings in Oregon, what happens is there is a discussion about just precisely what evaluative criteria are. And I want to raise something I raised earlier this year when we talked about the Caulfield Place subdivision, which was a section of the statute ORS 227.173 subsection 1, which requires the city to, quote, relate approval or denial of a discretionary permit application to the development ordinance and to the comprehensive plan for the area in which the development would occur and to the development ordinance and comprehensive plan for the city as a whole. This concept plan, we're evaluating it pursuant to the criteria listed in our code as of when the application was submitted, which was under a previous code section before the code was amended. And that code provision is Oregon City Municipal Code 17.65.50. Now, after the code revision, that section of code now requires, as one of the approval criteria for a concept plan, to make findings against the comprehensive plan. When this application was submitted, that was not the case. Nevertheless, by operation of ORS 227.173, it is my opinion that we have to use the comprehensive plan as approval criteria as well, and we did not do that in this instance.
Can I check that with our attorney? Because I thought we always have measured our approval against the comp plan. I thought it was our guidebook.
It is, and I'm looking at the statute and also looking at the concept plan development. And Tony, do you know if the comprehensive plan is a criteria in the master planning process for concept plans, if that's something that can be looked at?
It was not. It
Okay.
was
It
was added in this last round in
Master
July
plan.
of this year
Okay.
to implement the Beaver Creek and Park Place concept plans.
And then turning to the statute that you cite, 227.173, if I'm looking at it right, the provision itself, it looks like that's the last portion of that clause, and the entire subsection says, approval or denial of a discretionary permit application shall be based on standards and criteria. It's kind of general direction, what you need to do. So approval or denial of a discretionary permit application shall be based on standards and criteria, which shall be set forth in the development ordinance, and which shall relate approval or denial of a discretionary permit application to the development ordinance and to the comprehensive plan for the area in which the development would occur, and to the development ordinance and comprehensive plan for the city as a whole. One way to interpret that is not that every permit, such as one in front of us, has to relate to the comprehensive plan as a whole, as much as what it's saying is that the standards and criteria that you judge something by have to relate to the comprehensive plan as a whole. And it'd be easier to see if I had the language in front of you, but an interpretation would be that this actual provision applies to the standards and criteria that you adopt, not to the permit, each decision that comes along. And, again, it gets back to the idea of what are we going to, how are we going to, similar to the inventory idea that, we're going to set what the inventory is, and it may be right or wrong, but the way you fix that is by fixing the inventory. And in this case, you look at the development ordinance, and the development ordinance has its standards and criteria and through that development ordinance, that's how you implement the comprehensive plan. You don't go back to the comprehensive plan every time unless you make that part of the criteria. And what this provision says is that those regulations need to relate to the comprehensive plan. So, I without looking at how LUBA might have interpreted this particular provision in the past, there's a way to interpret it that says, you got to bring the comprehensive plan into everything. There's another way to look at it that says this doesn't really come into play when you look at individual decisions, but you look at, when you adopt the standards and criteria.
Can I make a comment on that interpretation? By that reading, I think it would render a lot of the language as surplusage. In other words, by what you have just stated, the last clause that I just spoke of, it would work the same way if it just said development ordinance as opposed to development ordinance and to the comprehensive plan.
I'm not certain.
Because what you're saying is that when you pass the development ordinance embodies the comprehensive plan, and therefore you wouldn't need the language and to the comprehensive plan. It seems to me that what's going on here is that this is an explicit legislative mandate that even if you have a development ordinance, because it's understood that the development ordinance, derives from the comprehensive plan, this statutory provision explicitly requires, very explicitly, relating to the development ordinance and to the comprehensive plan, and then it says to the city as a whole. So it adds that additional language as well.
And, I'm not saying that I disagree with your interpretation. I think that's a plausible one. But I also think my first read on it, the way that clause, that sentence is structured, would be that clause relates to the standards and criteria. That, approval or denial of a discretionary permit shall be based on standards and criteria, and the rest of that describes the standards and criteria. We could argue all night. I think they're both plausible interpretations without looking into it any further. But I guess my first instinct is that that looks to the standards and criteria. But I can't say that a different interpretation is incorrect.
You finished?
That's the point I wanted to raise.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Commissioner Neely.
Said where I didn't have problems, so I guess I'm going to start going with the area where I do. What I guess we refer to as the 5 adjustments. Number 1, height restriction in institutional district for new public works center building only from 35 feet to 60 feet. And I'm going to the rebuttal that is provided by, is it Winterbrook Planning, is that right?
Winterbrook represented the applicant.
Yes.
Okay.
And provided a rebuttal statement in terms of the testimony that we saw here from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association appeal.
The November 4th memo?
Correct. I'm just going to page 81 on the findings. it talks about the findings. I want to go to one specific point in the findings, and that is likewise, any potential impact, and then they're talking about the building height, is mitigated by the distance of this building from any nearby residential zone property, 85 feet at its closest point. I don't know about Oregon City, but I know most of the blocks in Portland are set up in a grid system, 20 blocks per mile. And I remember once, because I made a mistake in the 5th grade, I believe that a mile is 5,280 feet, is that correct? Mm-hmm. I divide that by 20, and that's 250 feet. 85 feet is a very short distance. It is not a long distance between someplace that's zoned residential and a building that's going to have a height that's nearly double what we normally permit. And I guess this I wasn't here at the time, but I understand when this came in 2005 before, this building height issue was in fact discussed at the commission at that time. Is that correct?
The original...
in 2005, I think, is when the request to actually proceed with this concept plan came before the commission. Is that correct?
It's 4 or 5, yes.
I think it's 5. 4 was the comp plan.
Yep, 2005.
The
facilities plan.
It's just very difficult for me to envision a structure of 60 feet in height that won't have a visual impact on the neighborhood, on the historic neighborhood, and I have a problem with that. I don't have the problem with the concept of an elevator connecting the places, because you can design an elevator, I think, that brings into the design factors of two different elevators that we had operating between the lower level and the mid-level of Oregon City. But I do have a problem with a building as tall as that is adjacent to a residential neighborhood, when I don't think anywhere in that area do we have buildings of that height. And that's a major concern. The other one, I guess I'm not specifically concerned about it from the standpoint of its ultimate impact, but they are adjustments 4 and 5. Institutional and commercial building standards exempted upper site study buildings only, and historical overlay building standards exemption for upper site buildings only. Why would we want to institute these particular exemptions at the concept plan period? I don't know of any. Have we ever had a concept plan where we've actually put in these kinds of exemptions?
These kinds for historic review, or for...
Well, both of them. The institutional building standards being exempted and the historic overlay standards being exempted. Have we ever done that at the concept plan level before?
Because at the concept plan level is the only place you can request the adjustments.
Is that right?
Yes, you have to do it as a type 3 process.
Okay.
So you need to do it up front, or if you waited, let's say, till phase 5, 10 years down the road, you'd have to come back in at that phase to get the adjustment at that point. So, yes, it's required to be a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission at a minimum in order to request those adjustments. That's why they're included up front. And I guess if I could step back one real quick in response to the findings concerning the height adjustment. Mm-hmm. And one of the things the applicant was trying to convey was that the building would be constructed so that it steps back. So what you see on Center Street would meet the height requirements along Center Street. And then it would step back. And then the next floor would be built up. And then it would step back again. So that it's not 60 feet tall at 5 foot off of Center Street. It is actually very well set back with, and here's where we get into the hypothetical, because the building hasn't been designed. But there's discussion of, a green roof so that it breaks it up, and then you don't see that, and then you step it back again. So it's difficult to give them to not have someone go out and design the building right now that you're not going to build for multiple years. but yet to try and convey that we believe that we can accommodate this, please give us the flexibility to try and design something that needs to meet your institutional design standards as well as your historic review design standards. And if it can't, they can't build it that tall. So this is a multiple-step process to get the building built. But I do understand your concern that maybe just right off the bat 60 feet is not appropriate. But when the Planning Commission and Historic Review Board looked at it, they felt comfortable that, A, there's another review process, and B, okay, let's see a final design on this step process, this stepped building, to see what that does look like in relation to Center Street, the bluff, the existing homes next to it. So I guess that was the finding concerning the first adjustment you requested. Concerning institutional design standards, what that's saying is that the buildings on top don't need to meet our institutional and commercial design standards for instance, 60% transparency of the front facade, that the front of the building needs to be located 5 feet from the nearest right-of-way. These are very specific design standards that you would see in your downtown area. They still need to meet site plan and design review criteria, which are the more general ones that we would apply in a general industrial zone. So they're not exempt from site plan design review. The upper site is just exempt from the pedestrian-friendly design standards that we have in our code that require, the facade of the building needs to be designed so that every 30 feet there's a change in articulation, multiple colors for the building and design materials that are more appropriate along your pedestrian ways. And so what we're saying is we're going to exempt them from that, but they're still going to meet the 1762-050 site plan design review criteria that we would apply in the general industrial zone, because everything in our general industrial zone is also exempt from the institutional and commercial design standards. So that was the rationale behind that second request for the adjustment. And then the last one, I think you said was number 5. Where did it go?
I guess to a large extent you were addressing the one item, the one structure that was identified, which is the foundation, which apparently was not reviewed by the Historic Review Board. But that you've already indicated will not be part of the construction site area.
The pictures that I've seen, I believe, is identified on the map. We've gone out and looked at. We can certainly add that condition of approval. We can put it on the whole site. There's absolutely no reason we can't, and there's no reason to think that if our Public Works Department was out there and they hit a foundation that they wouldn't stop and ask what it was, in my opinion. But if that's the concern, certainly add the condition and it just addresses it. The last adjustment concerns the historic overlay district, and if the buildings up on top, these utilitarian in nature storage buildings, need to go in front of the Historic Review Board for every one of them, and the Historic Review Board felt that no, it wasn't appropriate to bring these up here. We understand what they're being used for, but they requested additional conditions concerning really focus on the exterior of the site, of that upper site, the fencing, make sure the fencing is historically appropriate, the landscaping around it, really try and work on that landscaping and designing it in such a way that it fits in with the neighborhood and acts as an effective buffer and screen for sight and noise. So those were why those adjustments, those were the findings that we had concerning those 3 that you've just identified.
Commissioner Smith, are you through? Basement Taylor. Were you taking a breath?
Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
I want to respond to the last one.
Sure.
Please.
I mean, you do have residents surrounding that upper area, and why would you not want to have that evaluated in terms of historic compatibility with the neighborhood?
I believe that the feeling was that because of their use, their nature, the fact that it's going to be a closed, secure site, that for example, this area, I'm sorry, here's the upper site, obviously. You've got this area where there was talking of some fueling. So there's conditions in there concerning, we don't want any of the neighbors from the public right-of-way to be able to see that facility. So whether you do that through walls or landscaping or a combination of both, you need to address that. So they were focusing on that the public's not going to be in here. This isn't a public access facility. That they didn't feel it was appropriate to design these to be historically compatible just to be able to work on a maintenance vehicle.
But could not the Historic Review actually evaluate fencing material and so forth that might be used to actually deal with it. And it almost, I would interpret this as that the historic overlay building standards exemption from the upper side buildings only. I guess you're going to suggest, it's probably true, that they're not going to be regarded as any historic significance. But will the Historic Review Board still be able to look at the design in terms of these walls, of these fences and so forth that we're talking about? Is there any reason we can't have the Historic Review Board look at that?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
No reason you cannot.
And we can condition that within this
Certainly.
within this
You can
process?
condition them to go through any part of the HRB process for any phase you find appropriate. And I thought we had talked about fencing.
We did.
We did. You did.
Well, just
And the
clarification
conditions.
more than anything else.
Does that complete your question at this moment?
I'm going to take a break, but I've got a couple of others.
Okay, Commissioner Smith?
Okay. All right, so I still have the SHPO, the historic concern. So I think the entire site, needs to be considered with that.
So you would support a condition?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm a little concerned about Commissioner Nocita's issue that he brought forward this evening. So maybe we'll have some more discussion about that. The height issue is still of a concern to me because of the drastic change from residential to this giant building. And I understand the discussion about the setbacks, but I also, in the paperwork and things we've gone through, it doesn't specify, since we don't know what the building's going to look like, we have no idea how far the discussion was basically that the main entrance would be, nearest to the street with the building set back. But we have no way of knowing how far the setback is. It could be a foot setback from each level, which isn't going to really do much for the height. There's no way of knowing really, by saying there's going to be a setback and not really specifying what kind of setback. So I'd kind of like to see some more clarification about what are we talking about in terms of the setbacks for these levels of the building, and be more specific with that. I also have concerns about the exemption from the design standards from the upper buildings, and I think Commissioner Neely was on the right track with that. Are we, because I was getting the feeling that we're assuming these buildings aren't going to be seen. I find that hard to believe. And we're talking about we're exempting it because it's not in a pedestrian way. What more of a pedestrian way is an entrance to a city park? So unless we're actually going to hide the entire site with trees and fences, so that it can't be visible from the public, then, and I find that hard to believe. So I think that those were the right questions. And then, is the fencing, what's it look like too? I think that, if you're walking into that, there's houses there, and it's a city park. So of all the places to really worry about design standards, that would be it. It is a pedestrian way. So I don't understand that argument. And so I would like to really talk about some conditions to how we deal with that, because I don't believe that the landscaping and the fencing alone is going to hide that eyesore.
Yes, you could, make a finding as a group that the requested adjustment at the upper site be exempt from HRB review. We would both deny that. And that would mean that the upper site, everything they do on the upper site would go in front of the Historic Review Board.
And this is one other just basic comment. I agree with the discussion of the, in terms of in emergencies, it's centrally located and all these things, and there's no landslide problems on the site, but there's only 2 roads getting out of that site, and it's surrounded by a landslide area that aims right for the site. So, we've been lucky that nothing's really happened there, but if one of those roads gets closed off, none of our trucks are going to get out anyway. So that's a concern, a big one. We have to have access in and out of there, and right, we've been lucky that nothing's happened, but that we don't know that that's going to be. I mean, when you look at the map of the landslide, it's right at the site, facing right towards the back of the site, right up to it. So, what's to say? It may not be on our site, but it could be tomorrow. And I think those are my main ones. I don't really have too much. I'm fairly okay with the traffic analysis and the noise studies and those things. So I guess those are still my real big concerns.
I guess if I could just respond really quick, and I'll just read it again, and I'm sure you're well aware of what I just said, Commissioner Smith. In terms of the height adjustment, what you're allowing through this adjustment is for the applicant to go back and try and design something that's going to meet the Oregon City Code and the Historic Review Board Code, which will then go in front of that board for approval, which is then appealable to you or may be called up. So, yes, this is where we get into the trouble with these master plans. It's sometimes it's hard to know how much detail to provide and how much you're comfortable with. And while I think it's difficult to invest that much money up front into a design of a building that's so far out. But the other side of that is you do have protections against the multiple reviews that are going to occur that are publicly noticed, advertised in the paper, properties signed. So those are where you would probably want to deal with those. It could be unfortunate to put a condition on here that says every step needs to step back 15 feet. And what if you need one at 12? So that's the difficult part.
We had another process.
I guess I had one more that just came up because I said I didn't really have any problems with the sound study, or the noise study, but the one condition that in the event that we're going to be noisy, we're going to notify everybody. Is that realistic? I mean, I mean, you don't know if you're going to be noisy, and just to see staff people walking around the neighborhood to say, oh, by the way, we're going to be a little loud today.
No,
I don't think
red. That would be our code red system.
I don't know.
Through? Bucky?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Neely.
Yeah, I'm going to come back. I think one of the things about the height standard, I understand what you're saying, but it almost directs you to do this design and not look at alternatives. I mean, one alternative design that comes to mind is you're talking about an elevator, why not have a building at the base and a building at the top that is not connected by the elevator? I mean, I'm afraid by doing this exemption without indications, the preference would be to look at other designs, which I think is probably the direction I'm going, and then maybe it's my limited vision of what can be done in terms of a design, is to have other options actually looked at in the process. And I'm not sure that the way we're putting forward this as a concept plan, that's going to happen unless we have some way of indicating that we want to see other options studied besides the one that would be permitted under this exemption.
So could you address the flexibility of the concept plan?
I guess Mr. Kabizman could probably correct me if I'm wrong when I make this statement, but as the property owner, you have an awful lot of authority on the design of what's going to be built there. And while we can certainly try and come up with a condition of approval that says we're going to grant you this adjustment, but we want you to look at multiple designs that include, it's very hard to limit yourself. In this case, all you're doing is giving them the flexibility to look at it. it's,
I'm interested in having actually the concept plan address this in some degree. That is, options. For one thing, I have no idea how long I'm going to be a property owner. 1 year. So I think we're really looking at the future and taking in the concerns of the citizens that have come forward. I feel a lot more comfortable if we could develop some wording as this is going to be one of several options that are going to be explored in the design process. And having said that, can we do something that doesn't preclude looking at design options in which this exemption would be required and actually bring in the exemption at that point as opposed to putting it at the beginning of the process? Permit this as a design option to look at under the full knowledge that it may not pass muster when it's requested for an exemption. But if you can, if the city can go ahead and give good evidence why this design option would be preferable aesthetically or for other reasons above other design options, you can request the exemption at that point where you have the actual evidence. We seem to be loading this at the beginning, and that's my concern.
Well, I have a concern also about making it too rigid. I mean, Tony's comments at the beginning about where we are in the process, because I mean, I thought the Planning Commission did a very masterful job of creating the conditions, because we wanted. Certainly, it's a concern of mine that the impacts are adequately mitigated. But again, if we create them too rigidly, then the flexibility to do a creative design that might not be on the table today.
We can indicate here that we can explore that particular design, but I don't know that we want to give the exemption at this point.
Yeah, no, and that's what I'm arguing for, because I think that creates rigidity rather than flexibility of design.
Oh, you're agreeing with me. Okay.
I'm agreeing with you.
I just make assumptions.
You should not do that. May we take a break before you speak? Okay, 5-minute break, please. Yes, and our meeting is now back in session. Commissioner Nocita, you'll be the first speaker.
Can I jump in real quick? One of the Historic Review Board members came up to me and would like me to clarify if they don't believe I'm representing their position accurately. Their concern when they saw this was that they would approve the height, they would agree to the height adjustment, but that they did not want offices on the top floor. Planning Commission saw this in the record. The Historic Review Board letter is in the record, and just don't want there to be confusion that somehow I'm biased one way or the other. I'm representing the Planning Commission decision here. They did see that in the record. We're aware of what Historic Review Board's concerns were, and that it does need to go back in front of them at some future date should this be approved, since it is on that lower site. But just wanted to get that clarified.
Thank you. Now, Commissioner Nocita.
This discussion's pretty free form, so I'll just mention a couple of my points and raise some later in the discussion after I've heard more from other commissioners. During the break, I was mentioning to City Attorney Kabaisman that some of the criteria that we have to decide this case on is the language is very amorphous and is subject to a lot of discretion and a lot of interpretation, and it kind of makes it difficult for me as a decision maker, because I guess by training, I'm used to precision and legal arguments and I mean the higher up the level of abstraction you go, it's kind of more and more difficult for me to get my arms around it.
Welcome to the City Commission. Wear shades of gray.
I mean, at the lower level, I mean, later in the process, when you get to detailed development plans and you're actually going against very specific zoning criteria, I think that would become an easier process. So what I find myself wrestling with is how much of this decision tonight is a general policy decision on the wisdom of putting this project in this site. Because I think you can read into these approval criteria as far as like in the criteria, approval criteria number 5 for concept development plans is that improvements adequately impact mitigation thresholds and improvements adequately mitigates identified impacts for each phase of the development. Well, you can basically call anything an impact. Aesthetic impacts, noises are impacts. So again, it becomes very general, and to me, this language allows this decision to become as much, if not more, of a policy decision as opposed to a purely legal decision. That said, what I'm struggling with are it's kind of a tug for me. On the one hand, some of the arguments that have been made regarding placing the site in the McLaughlin neighborhoods, I can see some merit to. The fact that it is in the McLaughlin neighborhood, which is an older part of town, needing more attention than perhaps the newer subdivisions. One that hasn't been mentioned that I could foresee also is the fact that I could see Public Works being part of a major response team during a flood effort. And the timing of getting down to, the banks of the Willamette downtown that are overflowing during a flood would be a lot quicker, theoretically, at least, coming from that site than up near the reservoir, for example. On the other hand, I think what Commissioner Smith said earlier, too, is accurate. Having only 2 entrances into the upper site where all the major equipment would be stored, given the risks posed by narrow entries and exits, the issue of a landslide, which in a flood event it's because of a lot of rain, and you don't know it's a rain that's going to trigger a landslide. So I mean, all these are hypotheticals. We can't really. It's impossible for us to estimate at this point what merits there are in that kind of like emergency context. There are some things about the plan that I think are impacts that do concern me, and I'm really not seeing the ability to get past them at this point, at least, of the debate. And one is the noise issue, because I think that the points that Mr. Mabee made at the last discussion have some merit in the fact that the report we received basically citing the standards for the daytime hours, which in the rule, it wasn't 8 a.m., it was 7 a.m., over to 10 p.m., and whether or not the fact that some of these trucks are going to be driving by neighborhoods in the early morning hours, and the decibel levels are exceeded once if you go by the daylight hours, but the OARs set the threshold lower in the night hours up to 7 a.m. I can see noise exceedances more frequent than that. So I'm not sure that the applicant has established that noise mitigation has been adequately addressed, either in terms of mitigation, as Commissioner Smith mentioned, whether just monitoring is adequate mitigation. I don't think it is. And to whether the mitigation is applicable under the morning standard or the daylight standard or the night standard. I can say, I mean, in my own experience, I mean, my garbage is collected certainly before 7 a.m., and that's one truck that wakes me up every Thursday because it goes right in front of my house. If that were to happen multiple times in a morning, every morning, at levels that exceeded the OARs, I think that is an impact that I don't think can be adequately mitigated if you put this facility in a neighborhood of this age and with the streets, because the access streets into and out of the upper site are so narrow, and our house is directly abutting these narrow streets. I don't know how that can be mitigated. So I'm willing to hear counter arguments from the applicant, but to me that is a reason to remand the appeal or to grant the appeal. As far as mitigation also, and again with the caveat and the admission that these things are very subjective, although criteria number 4 states the proposed concept development plan protects any inventoried Goal 5 natural, historic, or historic resources within the proposed development boundary consistent with the provision of applicable overlay districts. I agree with the applicant that, and with Mr. Kobeisman, because I've done this research myself in my legal career. In Oregon land use law, the inventory is everything. If it's not inventoried, it doesn't matter how valuable it is. And we have very valuable natural resources in this town that just aren't inventoried. Having said that, I also think that under criterion number 5, because the language is so broad, you could actually put identified impacts. Those impacts, because that language is so broad, those impacts could be to natural resources, even if they're not inventoried. And I, having walked the site, a couple of times now, as far as impacts, I find that the impacts to the ecology of that area, specifically the white oaks up there, the white oak ecology on the northern part of the upper site, the landscape involved in that rock cluster, which is part of what makes Oregon City really distinctive, are basalt rock shelves. I think if I have trouble seeing that this is an appropriate site for this facility if it involves the radical changes in topography and ecology and landscape that paving that upper site, destroying that rock cluster, removing all these white oaks involves. Those are impacts that I don't think can be mitigated by constructing this facility on that site. As to some of the adjustments, I think on the other hand, I think I would differ from Commissioner Neely on the height adjustments. I don't particularly think the height adjustment of a tall building in a residential neighborhood is a problem, because I think, to me, it's a question of design. I think that even a tall building in a residential neighborhood can be an amenity if it is of superior architectural design. That's really subjective, and I've suggested, I think to Mayor Norris, that one way to solve that issue would be doing a design competition, and really using it as an opportunity to do something really nice for the city. So I'm not sure that, again, because it's subjective, I don't think that I am particularly adverse to the height adjustment. And as far as scenarios, maybe I don't know to the extent that the department has considered, for example, putting the headquarters where it is planned, but finding somewhere else for the vehicle storage, because given the impacts, I agree with Commissioner Smith, the impacts of putting a fenced storage lot for heavy machinery and equipment, that's not compatible with Waterboard Park. I mean, in the design guidelines, the trail that is planned for there, that is going to be a pedestrian trail. So I don't think I agree with the design adjustments and the historic preservation adjustments, because I think there are issues of compatibility. The fenced area of storage is not. I don't think it can be mitigated to be compatible with a surrounding historic neighborhood, and especially with Waterboard Park. And I'm really having trouble accepting that site on the basalt shelf in that ecology as being an appropriate site for that vehicle storage yard. Although I have less issues with the headquarters site down below. So that's where I am.
Commissioner West.
On the list, huh?
Oh, sorry, I was in the wrong screen. Commissioner Neely first.
Before, I'm going to yield because I think there are certain issues, and you were going to invite the applicant rather than lose your questions and my comments. I'm going to request that the applicant come forward first. Then I would have some comments, if that's okay.
We are the applicant.
Well, actually, I think we probably. The question, my questions is rather in terms of the applicant. I would have no problem with having the Public Works Director sitting up there with you to address perhaps some of those noise concerns as well.
There was some discussion at the hearing that you held about who exactly was going to be speaking for the city. The statutes tell you that ex parte contacts do not include city staff. But you know, to the extent you're talking, this is where we get into the trouble with the city as applicant as well as decision making.
Let me be specific though. In terms of the noise issues and the timing and so forth, the Public Works Director probably has better knowledge about how many vehicles are going to be driving before 7 o'clock than somebody from the planning staff. He might run over and confer with the Public Works Director to find out what the answer to that question is, which is one that I would sort of assume would be answered in the noise criteria. I think we actually would benefit for having Nancy Krushauer sit up there as well to address some of those very specific issues which Mr. Conkle may not quite have as good of access to, but maybe you do.
I would just be concerned about opening up the record.
I mean, I think the actual, ultimately the applicant is you. It's not, Nancy. Yeah. It's not John. It's not Tony. And the critical question for your contact with staff is whether or not they're going outside of the record. I just want to make sure you're aware of what was said at the last meeting. But I don't think there's a legal problem with having.
This issue has been brought up before, and the number of vehicles of a certain type has been brought up before in the previous testimony, so I don't think it's going out of the record.
I'd have to ask Tony to make sure that, the record, because I'm not as familiar with it, but as long as you don't get outside of the record.
I have some right here that addresses that in the testimony.
Right. So my question is there a problem for us actually inviting Mrs. Krushauer to speak on this?
I think there's a legal problem with having Ms. Krushauer there. She is city staff. It's not ex parte contacts. It stays within the record. There's no new evidence. So there's not a
lengthy argument. I move that we do so.
I don't think we need to have a motion for that, but I think there are two options. So either we can request that, or we can take a break and Tony can confer.
And I guess I would just like to point out the last meeting I was at, and it was seemed to be a majority nod head that no one else would be talking.
That's
so
what
that-
I'm concerned
and
about,
I- And I
too.
know that's what the neighborhood took away from that meeting, but that's certainly at your discretion, you run the
If
meeting.
he's going to take breaks and so, we're just going to prolong the meeting.
That's true, but I'd like to keep it perceptually...
If she were sitting there, it'd be
correct.
easier for him to talk to her rather than walk over there and talk to her there. And she is the spokesperson, and he is the spokesperson.
This is true, but I like our legal counsel to guide us on those
There's
matters.
nothing illegal about it.
It's not legal, it's, more of a perception or a
Perception issue.
political issue of, what representations
Okay, well,
the
let-
commission may have made.
Let Mr. Conkle go ahead.
Let me ask, are there any objections to Ms. Krashauer coming to the podium?
If we made a decision, even by head nods at the last meeting, that we were only going to deal with Mr. Conkle, I would prefer to be consistent and only deal with Mr.
agree.
Conkle and
That's how I
have
agree.
a break and let him talk to the
Okay,
Public
let's
Works
take
Director.
another 5-minute break, and then we'll return. Okay, we are in break right now. Uncle, to answer the questions about, what were we talking about?
I guess the first place we'd start
Noise.
with the Public Works operates during the day from 7 a.m. till 4:30 p.m. unless there's an emergency call out, which would require someone to go out, obviously any time of the day. In Exhibit 1, June 15, 2000 memo from John Lewis, he talks about the type of vehicles that the city has, and that they operate 47 vehicles, but only 12 of those exceed 1 ton carrying capacity, which means the majority of those vehicles are not large trucks. In terms of going on the roads, for the noise that they'd be created to be very similar to the existing car that you have, and that's what most of them are. They do have a vacuum truck that would go out, I believe it's a couple times per week, a little bit earlier. And then, and he states in his memo,
Say a little bit earlier. Are there specifics as to what a little bit earlier means?
no, I do not have that. It's not in the record. And it says, Public Works is currently suitably equipped with large vehicles and is not anticipated to increase the number of large vehicles by more than 2 or 3. So I'm not sure, trying to limit to what I'm saying to what's in the record. So that's what I've got to work with right now.
What I have from notes from last time is that, I believe we asked a question directly of Nancy Krashauer, that no new dump trucks for 10 years, but over the long term, then 3 more. That's what I recall.
That's what I-
That's what I have in my notes, anyway. So it must be from that.
And that would reconcile with what Mr. Lewis wrote in this concerning the acquisition of larger vehicles in the near future.
Okay. Anything else you found? Okay. Commissioner Nacidi, have you finished questioning? Okay. Commissioner West.
Well, I've been respectfully listening to my colleagues tonight and their concerns, and I've also read every one of your concerns in the neighborhood with this whole project, and I'm wondering if we're ready to wrap this up with any kind of a vote here with a few conditions of approval. I'm ready to move on.
I have some more points.
Okay?
Commissioner Neely.
When I yielded to the applicant, which I meant to be Tony I didn't intend to be knocked off, but I was, so I will go ahead indicating there's a couple of things. The 2 things in question, one is that the properties that we procured for Public Works in the Barkley Hills area next to the reservoir do not appear to be part of this concept plan. Is that correct?
By the Mountain View reservoirs? Wait.
Yes.
Yes. We did a separate master plan for that property.
You did a separate master plan for that property?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So does that plan, you know offhand if that plan deals with any of these vehicles issues, or is that strictly associated with a, you don't know?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know there was discussion of that at the Planning Commission, about let's move all the vehicles up to Mountain View, and that didn't go anywhere with the Planning Commission. It was discussed and debated.
Size, I think. I think it was a size issue. I can't remember the size of the property.
Well,
Continue.
the other question, it was more of a comment. We have in the rebuttal testimony some pictures of trucks able to leave the site onto Center Street. And they show a nice picture of them able to do so, but I'm pretty certain that Mr. Lewis in his testimony indicated that, in fact, they do cross over the center line. So what they can do and what they do, I don't think is necessarily the same thing. I'm very concerned about the safety, and it probably would apply to what's going on there, the safety issues of that particular route for particularly the larger vehicles leaving the site. I understand the benefit of it, not having those larger vehicles go down John Adams through the residential area. But if we were to have a one-way routing, I would prefer to say one-way routing from Center Street into the upper site and one-way routing out John Adams out of this site, rather than have the large vehicles coming in and turning onto Center Street, because as Mr. Lewis said that in fact does happen. He said that in prior testimony. And so I'm caught between a rock and a hard place, because I know a lot of people aren't going to like the notion for larger vehicles going down John Adams. I would like that to be considered, but I believe there's some mitigation that should occur with it. The safety issue has been brought up. There is no route down John Adams where you've got areas that have complete sidewalks. Now, that road that goes up from 3rd Street directly up to the Armory, I don't know there's much you can do in terms of sidewalks. It's just the nature of the road. But one mitigation that might be considered in terms of traffic impact is for the city actually to put in sidewalks on the route out of John Adams to connect it down to 5th and or Center Street, or both. To make sure that we don't have children and so forth on the road as these large vehicles are coming out.
I guess you're referring to the John Adams, that's the private road that's through the site?
They're coming through the site, but we're talking about one way out of it.
Right, I understand.
And John Adams, if you go John Adams from what I assume is 3rd Street down to 5th, you'll see segments there that have no sidewalks. Or if you turn left, onto 1st, I guess, you've got the street. There are segments of it that don't have sidewalks.
This will never go through.
Well, then that's the next road then I'm talking about. I guess that's 3rd.
Or down here.
There are no sidewalks.
Right.
And I would like to have serious consideration of a mitigation on the traffic piece, is to actually build out the sidewalks along those two streets. They're not going to happen any other way, but if we're going to have traffic coming out of this facility, I do think there is a legitimate concern for safety, and I think that ought to be considered as a mitigation piece.
That's so interesting, because I have a different view. I would like to see the vehicles minimally use John Adams and go down Center. I mean, that's my route. I travel that all the time. I walk in Waterboard Park, and very I've used this site when I wore other hats as a volunteer in the city. And it's so close to get from the Center Street to McLaughlin or any of the other through routes down the other way. So I don't know. I just think more work can be done about the through traffic through the neighborhood to mitigate that a little bit. That would be my concern. That's not a deal breaker for me. I don't think, because I think that can be handled in the future. I guess one of the things that seems to be predominant to me is that the changes, in many ways, the new plan that's before us will make the site better in so many ways. Better than it is now. It'll be aesthetically better. It will be there will be minimally more traffic, as far as I can tell. It'll be environmentally cleaner. In fact, I think we've been doing environmental cleanup for about 4 years. The intrusiveness, I'm not convinced that there's any additional intrusiveness into the neighborhood. In fact, this is one of those interesting things to talk about, who's, if not this neighborhood, then whose, because the comments before this started, that people were talking about Public Works from the rest of the community, said, one side of the site is publicly owned and is a park, so that's not a neighborhood impact, and it certainly, I've seen when the city coexists with a natural area that we've been pretty sensitive, and it's because we beefed up our codes to be so, been pretty sensitive to that. And then the other side, down on Central Street, which is a sort of an edge of the neighborhood, so it isn't surrounded on four sides by neighborhood. It's been there for 50 years, so it's not a new thing being introduced. And I'm trying to listen very hard to all the comments, certainly read every word that all of you sent, which were very thoughtful comments, one of the planning commissioners lives 2 houses away from the site, and also, understands the impact of that. I was really impressed that someone who lives right there could vote for it with conditions, and because that's how I'm looking at this. We do know that it will be, I guess the words were minimally more intrusive, and the mitigations that we've all talked about tonight and that the Planning Commission put on, I think, should help this to be a good neighbor. That's the site being close to where we need those vehicles to be, all of us in an emergency, the fact that that we're really not adding additional vehicles in the next 20 years, except minimally again. I don't know. It seems I just don't see that there are things that we can't condition to make this a good neighbor. Other comments? Commissioner Neely.
One thing, just a response to Commissioner Nacita's point on the height of the building. I was not arguing that design should not be looked at. What I was arguing is that we don't build it as an exemption up front, because I think that we'll have the momentum to direct only looking at that design type. And that's why I was going to suggest actually taking that exception 1 off, but indicating in doing so that the designs that aren't covered by the exemptions could still be looked at in the process, and to request an exemption if in fact they came up with a design type that could show us what it looked like. So my intent wasn't to be exclusive.
In the interest of moving this ahead, could we begin to put the conditions on this that we need to, so that it eventually can come to a motion?
May I add one more thing about the
Yes,
transportation?
certainly.
One of the proposals that was made by the applicant that the Planning Commission affirmed, and I'm just going to read verbatim here to you. Please note that most truck activity in John Adams will occur when departing the Oregon City Public Works Center within a 2 or 3 hour time frame in the morning. Returning trucks over 1 ton will use the Center Street access. Return on access on John Adams for trucks over 1 ton will be prohibited except for emergency use.
That's what I was...
So they tried to address this circulation access to the site as well, and what the applicant proposed and what the Planning Commission affirmed was that the trucks would be allowed to leave out of John Adams, but they would be returning via Center Street. So that's where we currently
Good.
stand right now.
I like
And that during the weekends, that it is going to be a security gated system. During the weekends, all access would be via Center Street, except during a time of emergency.
One of the other things I think that I like also about the future, which speaks to both noise level and air quality, is that since our number one goal in the city is to build a sustainable future, that the city is pursuing alternative energy and low-emission vehicles for the replacement fleet, so that the replacement fleet should get cleaner and quieter as it is built over time. So, again, back to the conditions. If there are conditions that you'd like to put forward, Commissioner Neely did one. I don't know if you want to do it by affirmation that needs to be added. It's up to you. Commissioner West.
I'd like to, I've been pretty quiet tonight, so I was kind of waiting to wrap it up and to hear what everybody else had to say first. So, and I know you've heard a couple of these things, but I want you to hear them from me too, because it's important for me to know that, or important for you to know how I think about all this. So the first up is why this location. There has been a lot of concern from residents why we are staying here and not going somewhere else. I am fully convinced that we looked at other sites within city limits and that there was not another suitable site. And for it to be moved out of our neighborhood, I live in the neighborhood too, and moved into another neighborhood, the only way that could happen is if we put it on the outside edge of the city, perhaps in that Beaver Creek area, and given our record with voter-rejected or voter-approved annexations, not improving any annexations, and our some of our commission vote on urban and rural reserves on not growing out, that I feel that that's a very unlikely solution at this point in time. So I'm going with this where we're at. The other thing I would... Alice said it, or Mayor Norris said it in different words. I do, in the bottom of my heart, I believe this is going to be a neighborhood upgrade. And for the opportunity for us to have a LEED certified building, they're going to beautify the park entrances, and then to have some innovative stormwater facilities or methods would be just really neat for in our neighborhood. As far as the traffic issues, I can understand where people were concerned going through there, but I think that it's going to divert traffic. So in other words, they're not going to come down John Adams because it's closed, so the public is not going to be ripping through there as much as it used to be. And so you're going to just have the trucks. You're not going to have so much of the cut-through traffic. And I say that because I live on the corner of a street by right over here on 7-Eleven, and oh boy, do I get cut through traffic trying to avoid this light on Washington and 7th. Also, from where we sit on City Council, we are charged with handling the purse and the pocketbook of taxpayers. And I feel that this is the most conservative way of using taxpayer money, because this whole project can be phased in and requires no bond money. And also on the plate, I know in our community we have a big appetite right now, and I know that the majority of this commission wants a new police station, and we all want a new library. Later on in the agenda tonight, we're going to talk about another 6-month extension on the library. We are just going kind of 6 months to 6 months before the property owners there decide to redevelop, and we will be forced with a choice soon on what to do about a library. And same with the police station, as we're in a temporary situation now with remodeling or building a new one. And those are a lot of money for this community to cough up, and this plan will not require any additional outlay from taxpayers. I also concur with my colleagues tonight on that turning this site from a problem to an asset with all the proximity to the neighborhood and the downtown that uses the bulk of services. And I thought, you know, and people talked a lot about the floods tonight, but I'm thinking about snowing, and hopefully we won't have that again this year. But then the fact that
not till Friday.
This neighborhood has all the old sewer and water and storm drain, all the old pipes. and we use the majority of the services, it'd be nice to have it close by. And I feel that the city has knocked themselves really out on this process to try to be a good neighbor with this. The fact that they didn't have to do anything, and they've gone through a lot of steps. And I also truly believe in my heart that we're going to probably work on some conditions next, but that most of these concerns everyone has will be addressed at another stage in the site plan and design review. This is not an all for nothing tonight. This isn't the finale of. It's just really the beginning. So that's where I stand on this issue. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
All right, so I've gone over a lot of my concerns already, but right now I still have a few that I think can lead to some conditions. I support the condition to involve SHPO in the entire site, not just the site where the rock wall is. And so I think that doesn't completely relieve my concerns about the historic nature of that site, but it's better than where we're at right now. I agree with Commissioner Neely about removing the adjustment for the height adjustment.
You mean removing the restriction?
Remove it, but also in some way give the permission to consider designs that would not...
Alternative designs.
Alternative designs that could... yeah, that's sufficient.
So I think I'm able to kind of agree on those, but I think I would like to hear a little bit more discussion from the rest of the commission about the topic of how this relates to the comprehensive plan issue that Commissioner Nasita brought up, and in terms, and so I'm still kind of that's still on the. Okay, you guys, come on. The location still have, concerns about the two roads and the landslide issue and an emergency. So I kind of want to see some more talking about that, discussion about that. And the noise issue, you have the 1 hour there, but you also have the middle of the night where it's snowing and the middle of the night where it's flooding and, sanding trucks going all night. I know, but it's not exactly in the same place right now. So I still have some concerns about that. And so those are the ones I still feel like I need to have some work on. But I can agree to the first two that I mentioned, the SHPO and the height issue.
I think it would be important to note, too, that the Public Works Department has done quite a bit of geotech work out on this site, not required by anyone, but to address the existing historic rock walls that are out there. To think that, could certainly attach a condition that would require them to look at adjacent sites and perform geotech to determine if some type of slide protection is necessary on the site. I mean, that would be an option to try and address your concern.
Yeah, of the three concerns, the comp plan and the, I guess they're all kind of, that one's not as huge as the other two issues, but it's still there. Okay, that's it.
Anyone that would like to, or Commissioner Neely?
I just will go back. I'm not a lawyer. I didn't really understand that well. Commissioner Nasita's memo. Clearly, our attorney did, and that's what's critical. I guess on the issue of the comp plan versus things that have come to being since then, I'd like further guidance on that.
I had a brief discussion with Commissioner Nasita during one of the breaks about the 197 or 227-173, and the more I looked at it, the more, if you look at the provision, it's also the provision that has the no change in the goalpost rule, saying, once somebody files an application, you can't change it. You can't change the criteria that you're being that you have to comply with. There's also a provision that says if you're in needed housing, you got to have clear and objective standards. Basically, the context of that makes me think that this was really much more directed at standards and criteria, that when a city adopts the standards and criteria, they've got to do certain things, but they've all got to be in the development code, and that's what they're geared toward. I think I'll freely admit that there's some that it is not clear and 100% that there's some room for interpretation. But I think the better interpretation of 173 sub 1 is that it is aimed at when the city adopts standard criteria, not when it reviews permit decisions. And so the criteria that you're dealing under don't necessarily come into play. When you're dealing with this, the criteria don't have to include the comprehensive plan.
We're not necessarily in conflict.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to point out
Nocita?
that when I had the discussion with City Attorney Kabaisman at the break, I expressed my opinion that granted that the provision might have to do with not moving the goalposts, that my interpretation of the statute was that the comp plan and the specific policies within the comp plan were in fact part of the goalposts that everyone has to meet. I don't think I've seen any case law on that specific provision, so I agree with it, Mr. Kabaisman, that it is open to interpretation.
I guess maybe one quick summary. My advice is that you do not need to address the comprehensive plan provisions, but there's nothing that prevents you from doing so.
Without putting it against the comp plan, you don't know how different this would be from that. Have you done that kind of analysis?
Nothing in the record about that.
Are you ready to either have...
Got it, you got it. Go get your cue there.
Oh, Commissioner Neely, it just popped up.
No, I just wanted to respond a moment to Commissioner Smith's, I'm sorry. I was going to do a combination of last names too. And Commissioner Smith's comments on the situation of noise produced when we have vehicles coming on because of emergency situations. I think most residents will recognize those conditions as being emergency situations, and I hear this. I hear the sand trucks on 12th Street when they're sanding, and I'm pleased to have them there, frankly, even though they might wake me up. And even though the people on John Adams won't benefit on John Adams probably from the sand trucks, they will once they get onto the main streets. And I think that would be something that would be tolerated by the residents.
I'm interested in hearing either more conditions or a motion. This is
You wrote them down.
Well, the conditions that we talked about were the two that Commissioner Smith most recently mentioned, and that is to have historic review on the entire site, that Commissioner Neely has been shepherding the more flexibility in looking at alternative designs, so removing that planning commission restriction, I guess it's a condition. The other one that was mentioned was to have Geotech look at the entire site for landslide hazard. Let's see what else I have.
If I may, I think we had
Another one?
SHPO involvement in the entire site.
Yes,
Remove
yes.
height adjustment with providing guidance.
Slide protection.
Yep. Then we had the noise issue, if it can be mitigated, the loss of white oaks, if that's an impact that can't be mitigated.
Good, thank you.
Public access improvements along John Adams to 3rd.
Move approval as said by the applicant.
I'm going to make,
The motion, I think, is,
we've got to do in terms of denial or
Right,
the
or-
appeal or
right.
approval of the appeal, and I would like some guidance on how to frame the motion, because we're putting
that's what
conditions on
I'm
it.
going to ask our attorney about that, too, because I think we need to address that. Let's hear from Mr. Kvisman first.
I think, what we've got is an appeal and a call-up. The call-up isn't, I think what that means is you're looking at the application as a whole. So what it would be is a motion to approve the application for the Oregon City Public Works Master Plan
Conditions.
with conditions.
Additional.
Denying the appeal. I'm trying to think with the appeal document, if they're finding, the Planning Commission decision made findings as to each of the criteria. Haven't heard other than the conditions additional conditions you're identifying now, there may be some additional findings that are necessary to respond to the appeal document, but it's, sorry, I'm kind of stream of
Look at that
consciousness.
between meetings.
Yeah, but what
Bring
I'd
that-
suggest is a motion to approve the Oregon City Public Works Master Plan, deny the appeal, and include additional conditions on the Planning Commission decision and a set of findings to bring back to you at your next meeting.
Commissioner West, then you started that. Would you like to continue down that path?
Okay. I would like to approve the, or
Move approval.
move for approval, the Oregon City Public Works Master Plan and deny the appeal from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association and add a few more conditions, that SHPO reviews the entire site, not just by the rock wall, that this whole plan or the whole area would be subject to historic review, that we would put in a condition that we would be open to additional designs, not just the one that was presented, that we will look for all opportunities to mitigate noise, that we will look for opportunities as the plan progresses to mitigate traffic and directional traffic concerns,
White Oaks.
and to save the white oaks if at all possible.
I'd like to amend the appeal.
Just a moment. We
Amend
need a
the
second,
motion.
please. There a second on this motion?
I'm going to second, and then I'm going to recommend an adjustment.
Okay, moved by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Neely. Now, Commissioner Neely.
On considering other designs, my intent was also to omit adjustment 1. If in fact there is a design coming forward that requires adjustment 1, we can look at it at that particular time. So I'd like that motion to reflect that.
Is that okay with approval of the motion maker?
Yes.
Approval of the seconder, obviously? Okay, so the motion now has five additional conditions.
It's actually, if you look on the tab "Motion in Progress" on the computer screen, you'll actually have the motion as the city recorder has captured
There
it.
it is. Isn't that a nice thing? And remember, she has reminded us that it isn't a word for word.
But I didn't quite catch Commissioner Neely's addition there.
That we omit adjustment number 1, Planning Commission adjustment number 1.
Well, let's see what she had there. It should fit in one of those other areas. Alternative, yeah, that would come under number 2.
Number 2, the alternative.
Remove
design.
height adjustment and consider alternate design. That's okay. Well, no, it's not okay.
It's Planning Commission adjustment, height adjustment,
Yes, but consider,
number 1.
we're not, the implication there is the alternative designs would not include the one that's been suggested. That's not my intention. And I don't know quite how to phrase it. Remove the adjustment, consider alternate designs, and consider,
Explore.
and possibly consider an adjustment at the time a design is put forward, or something of that nature. But the implication there is that you can't consider the design that's been suggested, and that's not my intent.
Mr. Kvaisman.
I can suggest that this is, as I mentioned, we'd bring these findings back for you with additional conditions, and that the wordsmithing, make sure that we capture your nuances, the best place to do that would be in when you consider those findings. We want to get the general flavor of what you want, and certainly to the extent you want to get it in there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So I'll just do a slight wordsmithing. Under number 2, call it designs and not design.
So make sure that we all understand the intent of number 2. Is that clear for everyone?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner West.
One thing that we missed, I believe, Nancy, was that it's subject to Historic Review Board.
And
Would be
historic.
condition
Number
1 is HRB in addition to
HRB
SHPO.
and
Yeah.
SHPO.
There you go.
Okay, discussion? Okay, seeing none? Oh,
We're seeing it right now. We got the new motion coming up.
To clarify, the SHPO and HRB review is for any activity on the site.
I just pressed it.
So that means to demolish the buildings. Your intent with the SHPO and HRB review would be for the entire site. And so, for example, the first stage is to grade the upper site. So that means HRB would involved in the grading review as well as the review of the demolition of the buildings. Okay, so it's what any permit needs to go in front of HRB and be reviewed by SHPO as well. We can write that?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
that's not an impossibility. I mean, those are.
Too onerous.
Are those too onerous? I mean, I don't see any downsides to those, okay? Is it further discussion? Commissioner Smith?
I guess the one that I forgot about is in terms of the upper site and the exemption from design standards with Historic Review Board, et cetera. And I don't know if that question was answered regarding how much of the buildings are we going to really see up there. And if we're going to see them, it is from a pedestrian way and it is from a city park. So, unless we're hiding the entire site, we're not, I think we have to kind of follow our design standards. So I don't know if that question was answered really.
Can I just kind of see what I see happening is, we've kind of discussed, what we've got is 1762-055 are these detailed design standards that we have, which is what they requested the exemption from. They still have to meet 1762-050, which are the general site plan design review criteria. Now they also need anything that happens up there now needs to go in front of Historic Review Board as well. I would just caution you that these commercial design standards were not built or not designed for a maintenance garage. You're talking articulation, you're talking pedestrian access, you're talking transparency. If you would like them to meet something, I think that we really should look at 055 because there are parts of it that are just not applicable. It feels like you have a layer. It seems like you can let them be designed as utilitarian buildings, but then still be reviewed by HRB, and HRB can require additional standards.
Okay. Any additional speakers? Not Nancy. The vote, please.
Commissioner Smith?
No.
Commissioner Nocita? No. Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
An aye vote means that we are... Okay, just checking. Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye. Motion passes 3-2. Okay. We'll move on to the next item on our agenda, which is...
So just to be clear.
Yes, Commissioner
The yes
Nocita.
vote was to deny the appeal.
Yes.
Yes.
That was in the motion. And approve with conditions. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the second reading of, oops, mine just moved up. The second reading of of ordinance number 9-1003. There it is. Which amends the development agreement with John Jones Construction for a regional stormwater facility. So the second reading, may I have a motion, please?
Move for second reading and final adoption of ordinance number 091003.
Second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Neely, seconded by Commissioner Smith. For the second reading, Mr. Kabaisman.
Ordinance number 09-1003, an ordinance amending ordinance 08-1003, which approved a development agreement with John Jones Construction, Inc. pursuant to ORS 94.504 to 94.528.
Thank you. Further comment or discussion? Seeing none. Nancy, please to vote.
Commissioner Smith? Aye. Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely? Aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have, wait for my screen to change.
Yeah, I got to figure
It's,
this out.
there we go. It's a personal services agreement with Wallace Engineering to complete the design for Main Street. I appreciate the patience of those of you who have come to testify on this motion. This is from 5th Street to 15th, and the staff person on this is going to be whom? Nancy Krashauer.
Commissioners. I assume this microphone is on, I can't tell. What I've asked you to do tonight is to approve a personal services agreement with Wallace Engineering. The city staff has selected them to provide a detailed scope of work and fee estimate to complete the design of Main Street sidewalk improvements in the downtown. That would include from 5th to 15th Street, and it would also include portions of 10th Street and 7th Street. And it not only includes sidewalk replacement, but there's also some infill areas where there aren't really sidewalks today. There's also some streetlight improvements, some of which are related to the results of the parking study. We know from that we need to provide some additional street lighting downtown and connecting to the elevator. And the notion of the downtown sidewalk project was really precipitated by the historic Arch Bridge rehabilitation project. And in meeting many times with ODOT, many of our business owners and property owners downtown had expressed some grave concerns about impacts to the downtown when the bridge is closed. And ODOT, while they can't fund the construction, they said that they would certainly support us on any funding opportunities that we would seek to do the construction on this project. And the first thing that we really need to do, though, is to get the project ready for construction, which means ready to go to bid. There aren't any guarantees that we'll receive funding for the project, but ODOT's made it very clear, particularly with the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funding, that you have to have a project that is drop-dead ready to go out to bid, and you can't have any easement acquisition, you can't have any design stuff, it has to be on their ODOT-approved plan format. So we thought, well, you know, we know we will get their support in applying for funds, which is it's a big step. And as a matter of fact, I attached a memo from Jason Tell, the Region 1 Director, that summarized some of the discussion that we had at one of the meetings with him. And then he has sent a second letter that is at your desks tonight that reiterates ODOT's support should we seek funding for the sidewalk project, which can be phased, which is another good thing, because they always say, well, can you do it in phases? We can get you this much now and this much later. And the first funding that we would be trying to compete for would be any leftover ARRA money, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act funds. And then shortly thereafter, ODOT will be having a solicitation for Transportation Enhancement Fund projects, and that's an ODOT program. So realizing that, A, the city has not received transportation enhancement funds in the past, we've applied several times, and that we would have ODOT support, I think there's a good chance that that could be another alternative funding source for this project. The other area where I'm going to recommend to the City Commission that we pursue is the next round of earmarks through the United States Congress, through Congressman Kurt Schrader, that this kind of a project, I think, would be a very good project for appropriations because it is of the right size and it affects economic development of our downtown, and it is something that's very much supported by the public in that area and ODOT as the agency. And ODOT actually has jurisdiction over 2 of the blocks on Main Street, those being between 5th and 7th, and that's still Highway 43. If we were to receive funding for those blocks, then I would also recommend that the city go ahead and take jurisdiction of those blocks, and that's a preliminary proposal we put to ODOT, and of course they would be very much in favor of having 2 fewer blocks of highway to maintain, even though it seems insignificant. These little bits and pieces really are almost become orphaned highways for the state. So we are using our recently adopted list of civil engineering consultants for selecting a consultant for this project. The Wallace Engineering Consulting firm has very successfully delivered the contract documents on the Warner Milne project and the Promenade project. I took a very close look at their scope of work. We ended up honing down some of the work because we felt like it was a little, we're kind of being a little too conservative on the front end as how much work would need to be done. And then, of course, their fee estimate was adjusted similarly. So we came up with a project work scope that I think is appropriate for this design work, and the fee estimate is also appropriate for the amount of work to be done. And they've actually split their proposal, or their the personal services agreement scope of work, into 2 areas. Area A, which is 10th to 15th Street, and the not-to-exceed fee estimate for that is $147,644. And the Project B area, which is 5th to 10th Street, and that includes approximately 1 block east and west of Main Street on 7th and 10th, that fee is $130,271. This design portion of the project would be funded with transportation system development charges. We would never be able to fund the entire design and construction with SDCs, but because we would go beyond what is allowed with our adopted SDC methodology, because this is partly a maintenance project and partly it is to make sure we're providing good capacity for pedestrians in the future in our regional center. So the other thing that is worth mentioning is that we'll be improving anywhere where we end up doing the construction, we'll be improving the ADA ramps at the pedestrian crossings, which is an important thing that we need to be paying attention to downtown for accessibility. I think that covers all of my points. If you have questions, I can answer them. I might also add that we also received a letter that's at your place from Terry Powers, and she's with Premier Choice Insurance Agency, and she wasn't able to be here tonight, but she wanted to express her support for this agenda item. And then we also have a number of members of our public, both property owners and business owners in the downtown, that if you, I'm not sure if I think they might want to speak on support of it. I haven't really checked into the details with them, but they are here and they're very interested in the project.
I have a couple in the queue. Nancy Ide, may I ask you, those documents that Nancy Breshart referenced are in the document
Correct.
file here. That's what I thought.
That's right. If you click
At the end?
on the agenda button at the bottom,
Yeah.
they're listed there
As
under
exhibits?
7C by that little blue triangle.
Great.
7C exhibits.
Thank you very
PSA
much.
Exhibits.
Okay, good. In the interest of time, may I call those who came to testify? Okay, thank you. Lloyd Purdy, followed by, in fact, Rob Crocker, why don't you come up with him?
We'll work it out.
No, I'm not taking it down.
No, I wouldn't have.
I can take it down. I can take it down.
From New York, he doesn't care anyway.
I'm actually a Florida Gator, so I understand school spirit. I do have a couple thoughts.
You'll both need to introduce yourself,
Right,
sorry,
okay.
though we know you.
No, thank you for reminding me. Lloyd Purdy, downtown manager for downtown Oregon City. Do you want Rob to introduce himself now or when he speaks?
Space is fine.
I do have a couple of prepared comments to share with you all. I think tonight we have a very nice opportunity to, I think, approve, hopefully, a motion that the whole city can rally behind. It's an opportunity to begin to make an investment in downtown, a downtown that's a more active and vibrant component of the city. This is an investment in infrastructure that makes a streetscape enhancement, that makes downtown safer, and in this priority, in fact, safer, more pedestrian-friendly, and also more attractive. The timing's right for this because, as Nancy pointed out, we have an opportunity to leverage federal funds, ARRA funding, and we can do that because now we have ODOT support. Good timing on this. We've also documented there's a need. The urban renewal consultant has referenced several times the need for these types of improvements. A Main Street, a separate entity, a Main Street consultant, has referenced the need for safer main streets, more pedestrian-friendly main streets, more attractive main streets. An ODOT consultant, in fact, just last night in this room, a consultant hired by ODOT referenced again the need for a safer downtown, a more pedestrian-friendly downtown, and a more attractive downtown. And as we all know, and as Nancy referenced, even the parking consultant mentioned things like lighting that needs to be improved, crosswalks that need to be improved to make downtown a more active and vibrant place. Tonight, 13 business owners and property owners showed up to express their support for this, along with the written documentation you have. They've waited a long time. I do need to recognize their attendance here. Still in the room, Aaron Brenneman. Still in the room, Andy Bush. Still in the room, Tom, or as we know him, Downtown Bush. Still in the room, Rob Crocker. Butch. Still in the
So
room.
say, who's that? Okay.
Yeah. Ryan Smith had to leave, could not wait out this.
here.
Moving on to the next person. Nick Vorosky couldn't hold on. George Diamond couldn't hold on. Chris Small couldn't make it. Elizabeth Fowler still here. Don Slack is still here. Kyle Bradfield had a business to run. Chris Edmonds is still here, property owner. Tacey Philbrook couldn't make it. A very fine showing from downtown people who say this matters to us, and I can see you recognize that it matters. The only other point I think it needs to be stressed is this is a good opportunity, not just because of the timing with the funding stream, but it's about time that we brought Main Street and downtown side streets up to par with the level and the quality that we see on 7th and Malala. It's time to make this investment. This investment is leveraged, I think, 1 to 12. This investment that Nancy Krushauer is asking for, if successfully funded, results in a $3 million product. So $250,000 versus $3 million, I think that number's about a 1 to 12 investment. Boy, that's a good ROI, and it's worth it for our community. So certainly think I know Rob has some thoughts to share, and certainly if you have any questions, I'll be here, or our property and business owners will stick around a couple more minutes for you.
Thank you. And would you express our apologies to those who couldn't make it and had to leave, that that a prior item was extremely important, and we're appreciative that they took the effort to come. Thank you. Go ahead, Rob.
Rob Crocker. I am a business and property owner on Main Street in downtown. I also wanted to reiterate our support for the project. I think I don't need to belabor the fact, but the parking study made it very clear that sidewalks and lighting need to be improved. Clackamas County Main Street consultants who came out from Chicago, they said sidewalks and lighting need to be improved. ODOT Bridge Rehab Think Tank have said Sidewalks and lighting need to be improved. The traffic circulation consultants have said the sidewalks and lighting need to be improved. It needs to be done. This is a fantastic opportunity to try and leverage some federal funds. I have talked with, I wish Kyle Bradfield could have stayed, because I have talked to him about the whole safety after hours thing with the bridge rehab going on. Many of the restaurants, and I won't talk for Ryan and Aaron, but many of the restaurants say a good up to 30% of their business come from West Lynn. And with the bridge rehab throwing major roadblocks into people making it easy across that bridge, we need to figure out ways that we make it easier for our Oregon City residents to make it downtown for dinner after hours. A big chunk of that is making people feel safe downtown after hours when it gets dark. Second part of that is getting the elevator to stay open a little bit later, but that's another point. Right now, we have a wonderful opportunity to make the sidewalks safer, better lit, and frankly, a little bit nicer too. We've got good momentum, good things going on downtown, and I hope we seize this opportunity. Thank you.
Those are the only two speakers that I have on my queue, so thank you very much. Just to add to the bridge closure piece, I can't help but think what a wonderful amenity in 2 years, when the beautiful bridge reopens, to have a beautiful rehabbed down Main Street too. I just think that it's a wonderful pairing. Commissioner Neely.
Yeah, I mean, this is a study and so forth. I don't know that anything would be implemented down there, and it's a question before actually the bridge opened again. Are there things that could happen in the interim?
It depends on the timing of the funding.
It's just funding.
Yeah.
But we have had...
Well, I know this does.
Yes.
But
Oh, the circulation study?
I'm talking about the implementation of the study itself.
Circulation study?
Yeah.
That's different.
That's something we're just scratching the surface on, what the details might look like and when the implementation might be possible. That'll also rely on funding, depending on what the alternatives are and how much they cost. So,
Sidewalk piece and so forth, in fact, are things that could be implemented in relatively short order.
we get the funding.
I understand. I understand that.
This kind of a project would probably, it's still not a short project, it's a lot of work, and it would still probably, depending on how we phase it, if you did it block by block, it's still going to take months, 6 months, 9 months, possibly. So we have to be very sensitive to all of those different impacts, and that's something we want to try to time this right if we do have the construction funding, and do it in a way that it works out pretty well. And the other thing we're kind of playing by, I'll tell you, we are definitely kind of playing by ear in terms of while we design this, do we design it for bump outs or not because of the circulation study? And we might do both, or have kind of a if that, then this, so that we are prepared for multiple alternatives.
Mr. Smith.
That was my only concern, really, with this is that the design is, and I think most people would agree with this, that we don't want to create a design and then later it's now two-way streets and the design wasn't designed for that. So I think to me, the bulb outs, is that what we call them? Because sometimes the ramps are bulbed out and sometimes they're not. And is this design really just the sidewalks and the lighting and doesn't really include bulb outs? Because if we do, and if it does include bulb outs, is that taking in consideration that this might be a two-lane street at some point in the future?
That's the part that we're going to be taking almost day by day as that circulation study evolves. The bulb outs would be something that you could design them for parallel parking like we have on 7th Street, and bag the ones that go way out to delineate the diagonal parking. So that's something we'll look at as we continue to work through the design.
May I have a motion, please?
I would like to move approval for the PSA agreement with Wallace Engineering to complete design for the Main Street improvements from 5th Street to 15th Street in downtown Oregon City.
By Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Smith. Is there further conversation? If not, Nancy, please poll the commission.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely? Commissioner West?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Aye, motion passes 5-0. Next, we will consider... Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We really appreciate you being here. Oh, it says yay, interesting. Next item on the agenda is the extension of the library lease, and I guess we'll turn to Scott Archer, our... Oh, it's you!
Okay.
Our not-so-new library director.
So, good evening.
Welcome.
Norris and City Commission. The lease at the library and the Hilltop Mall will end on December 31st, and we've been offered our 7th extension, which will go this time for a term of 3 months until March 31. If you look at the 7th amendment that is in your online thing, the extensions have come in at different lengths of time, and Mr. Danielson is more comfortable with the shorter length of time at this point, but he's said he won't be kicking us out without a good length of notice either, so I feel very comfortable with this. So I need to, I recommend that you approve the extension so that we can stay in our home for now until we figure out what our next step is.
Any questions of Mo, or do you have a motion?
Mr. Danielson, by doing shorter things, hoping the commission will move ahead and do something?
I don't know. I don't know if he's sending a message or not.
Commissioner Smith?
I removed it.
I have you here on...
There it goes. I think, no.
On library.
Won't let me.
You have to go on library.
Oh, jeez.
That's okay. Was there someone that would like to make a motion?
Well, I can do that.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
I move to approve the extension of the library lease.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Smith, seconded by Commissioner West. Is there further debate? If not, Nancy, the vote, please.
Commissioner Smith? Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
And Mayor Norris?
Aye, motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have the consideration of a records retention resolution. And it's just come up.
7E.
And I assume that the presenter will be Nancy Ide, our city recorder, keeper of the records.
That's correct. Good evening, and I am here to make a recommendation that the City Commission consider the unnecessary retention burden placed on the city and to deny the resolution number 0931, which adds permanent retention for executive session minutes. And I'm sure that you've had a chance to read through your commission report and the list of the reasons why this is being recommended for denial. We feel that the current retention of 10 years of the executive session minutes is appropriate for these reasons listed, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions of Ms. Ide? Or a motion?
Actually,
Commissioner Nocita.
I have some edits to the proposed resolution. The edits I would like to add to this are on in the now therefore points. On number 1, I would like to add the word state archivists, '(S), the use of the state archivist general retention schedule.
Would you read the, number one?
Number one, the City Commission reestablishes and reauthorizes the use of the State Archivist's General Retention Schedule for the City of Oregon, cities of Oregon.
Are you deleting general records retention schedule?
Nope, I'm just making an addition, the State Archivist's General Records Retention. The rule that we follow is the State Archivist's rule. I'm just specifying that. Similarly, in number 3, I would like to add State Archivist's General Retention Schedule. And then I have another edit, which is to replace the word allow with the word require.
Number 3?
Yes. Because the sense of this, when we brought it up, was to require the retention of executive session minutes permanently. And with that, I would like to move adoption of resolution number 09-31, a resolution amending resolution number 315, establishing and authorizing the use of the General Records Retention Schedule for the cities of Oregon adopted as OAR, Chapter 166, Division 200, as amended.
Second for discussion.
Moved by Commissioner Nocita, seconded by Commissioner Neely. And let's see here. Commissioner Smith. Okay, Commissioner Nocita, did you want to speak to the motion?
Well, I've given my reasons for wanting to do this in some detail. I don't particularly need to repeat them.
You're on a list here, though, to speak, so.
No.
How do I get to speak?
Okay, right, you
Go
tap on the resolution, right here. So go back to on the floor. On the floor. And then tap on that, and then tap on request to speak. Now, while you're doing that, Commissioner Neely has moved in.
All right.
Commissioner Neely, go ahead.
It's just that in terms of a 10-year versus a permanent record, I just don't see how this is much more onerous. If we find out, in fact, there are issues coming up where it can be demonstrated to be more onerous to go through that. It's a question of storing it. Once it's stored, I think it's stored. Then the commission at the time can review that. But I just don't see that this is I don't see this as an additional burden at all, unless we find out that somehow storage capacity of all information has been restricted. It's for some reason I wouldn't be able to understand.
Okay, let me make sure I'm clear. This is executive session minutes, in which we do not make decisions. I've never, ever looked at executive session records in the 7 years I've been here. I can't imagine any of you have either. I know Commissioner Nocita has. He made that a mission. And so going from 10 years to permanently, to me, just doesn't seem, I'm not sure how that's in the public interest. Particularly since the action happens in the public session.
If I might? No.
I
will. I'll just get that pushed.
Yeah, you did. So that's what we're talking about, right? Going from 10 years, which is the state standard, and are there any cities that have gone beyond 10 years? Nancy?
I'm not aware of any in the state, no. And I'm also not, in all of my career in the recorder's office, I have never known of anyone to even request information on executive session minutes, even in the city that I was in prior to here. That doesn't mean that someone may not want to in the future, but it's just not an area of great request. I've never had a request. May I also make a statement that I just want to clarify how the DVD that's created of the executive session recording is retained. And I think there was some confusion of this from an article last week in the paper, as well as just our discussions here. And I just want to clarify, one DVD is created of the executive session minutes, or of the executive session meeting, and that is retained as the minutes. It's not something that is streamed through web streaming or kept on our server in any way, because that would open it up to the public possibly being able to get to it, or other staff or whoever. And so a DVD is created, and because I have to keep it somewhere separate, away from other record storage, because it needs to be secured. So, because it's a non-exempt or not open to the public. So that, I just wanted to clarify that, because I think there was some confusion on that matter.
Okay. Push your button.
So, yeah.
Yes. Commissioner West.
Not like we have not belabored this through multiple meetings, and everyone on this commission knows where I stand, but I do feel I'm just going to summarize briefly. I do feel it places a burden on city staff, and it opens it up to misuse, or all kinds of possibilities, or outdated DVDs that you have to change. And my colleagues, when we do business up here, you really like to do it for a reason that makes sense to you, and that no one has convinced me why we need to keep this in perpetuity.
Commissioner Nocita.
Okay.
Oh, Commissioner Neely.
What good does our technology do, for Pete's sakes? Anyway, a couple of things. One is that even though they haven't been requested by us, I think sometimes courts are in a position to bring up minutes from executive sessions, and I don't know how long that possible. I mean, I'm sure legal action, we consider legal actions, and what was the thinking that went behind them could eventually be called up by the courts. I do not view the DVD as the ultimate storage device, and there are various ways that you can protect files that are being stored in other media. And I don't visualize you're going to store DVDs for over 10 years. I would visualize you're going to store them someplace else where, in fact, access is, in fact, restricted to only those people that would have the authority to access them.
May I just clarify? This is permanent retention, not just 10 years.
I understand that, but the permanent retention doesn't have to be on a DVD. That's my point.
Okay. That requires a change from...
Would put into place the migration policy that the city has for migrating DVDs or other outdated media into a future media that would be appropriate for that era. And the policy addresses that and would help us to migrate it. So
the point is, they don't have to be stored in DVDs for more than 10 years.
That's very true.
Yeah, that's all.
It would be changed into another
I don't want anybody to believe that we're going to have rooms and rooms filled with DVDs. That's not what's going to happen.
I guess we don't really know what will happen beyond that. Commissioner Nocita.
Actually, I want to ask a question of the city attorney on this, because I may ask for an additional amendment on this. Minutes, the term minutes, would encompass recordings, or are minutes only written? Because if they only incorporate written minutes, then my intention is to retain the record of an executive session permanently, whether it's written or on a recording. So I would probably, just to be safe, want to add another amendment that says in item number 3 to require permanent retention of executive session recordings or
You don't
minutes.
mean an amendment, you mean just an addition.
Yeah. Second, we'll accept it.
So let's just put recordings and / or minutes.
As it's written now, it is to the minutes, and minutes may or may not be recordings, may or may not be written. It depends on how you want to retain minutes, and it could be the recordings could suffice as minute, or it could be the only minutes, or it could be that you have the recordings, but minutes are taken some other way.
I'm just going to put recording.
Number 3.
Yeah, executive session recordings and minutes. And here's why I'm not going to put or. I understand that since since we're relying now on the DVDs, we're not going to do written minutes of executive sessions.
I don't feel that's...
Wait, let's have an answer, please. That was a question of you, Nancy.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question, please?
Under the DVD policy, we're relying strictly on recordings. So I guess my concern is, there are minutes as of 2000 forward that are, at this point, solely written. So I do want specific reference to written minutes, and then recordings to account for those recordings that we're doing without written minutes.
What about minutes, comma, written or recorded?
Statute requires is that the city either keep recordings or minutes, and minutes could be in an electronic format or they could be written format. So.
The end of number 3, it'll say minutes, comma, written or recorded.
I thought you wanted permanent retention of recordings. Minutes or doesn't do it, minutes and does.
No, well, that's not on there. It's minutes, comma, written or recorded.
Okay, I agree with Commissioner Neely.
I see.
Written and recorded. Yes.
And or, not the same thing.
So you you will accept written and as the seconder, you will accept written and recorded.
Yes.
Okay. With that accepted amendment, I'll call the question.
Mr. Patterson.
A few things, and again, I don't have a dog in this fight, so you can go wherever you wish to with this one, but let me just point out a few things that you may want to consider in making this decision, because I think maybe you're not thinking through what this may mean. And I do think it's a bit overkill, because if you're looking at these types of issues, most of the things that are dealt with by the time 10 years are over are probably, you're probably not going to see it, maybe once in a blue moon. And you know, the reason why you do have those destruction in there is, again, because you don't have to continue to work those things, and they're also, what you do is you subject the citizens of Oregon City to an exposure of an issue that may be over 10 years old, and many of those folks probably wasn't even living in the city at that time, but that's who's going to bear that cost. But be that what it may, when you talk about maintaining this, and once it's stored, you need to think that if it's on a DVD, that will not last forever, so you have to migrate that to another medium. That adds costs, that takes effort, that takes yearly monitoring on the part of the city recorder's office as that 10-year rolls, those are moved, so that you know when to file away, whatever. So there is additional work and additional costs that you will add, and the question is what you're trying to protect here, is it enough to really warrant that type of effort? And it's probably, in this case, overkill, because as Ms. Ida has reported, these things come up so infrequently, and yeah, somebody may need something, but it's what risk, at what cost do you incur that? But something you just might want to think about as you look at this issue.
Mr. Neely.
I don't think copying from one device to another takes a great deal of time. And it's a case of having the devices copied to be in a protected device. That just doesn't take much time. Lots of us in our fields do it frequently, including me. But it takes a little time.
Call the question.
If I could interject for just 1 second, I'm thinking about the issue of recordings. There may be a better way to phrase it to make it clear, and if I can suggest an amendment. As I understand it, what you want is recordings and anything that's written out of it. You know, the city has the option of either doing recordings or written. You want to make sure whatever it is, it's preserved. And so the one way to do it would be to amend 3 to say the City Commission established an exception to the general records retention policy for the City of Oregon City to require permanent retention of the recordings of executive session and written minutes. And that way, you know, because recordings aren't minutes, there's something different. So it's the recording of executive session and written minutes.
Accept that. Does Commissioner Neely accept that? The recording of
We
executive
have
session minutes?
Several
Mm.
additions then. Is that in our motion here?
I'm going to read...
Wait. Is that, do you have that written? Let's go to the vote then here.
Look at it and make
Yep.
sure it's what you want.
Motion.
I want to read number 3 as I understand City Attorney Kabizman to have suggested in a minute.
Hold on just a sec, please.
You have written.
No, it's not written. It's in the minutes. I can read it to you. Number 3, the City Commission establishes an exception to the State Archivist's General Records Retention Schedule for the cities of Oregon to require permanent retention of recordings of executive sessions and written minutes.
Does everyone understand all of the changes that have been made? Ready to vote?
Yes.
All right. Did you? Yes, please.
Moy, I live outside of Oregon City. Just out of curiosity on this topic, I tried looking at the statutes and some other things on the internet. I have a question as to who is privy to the minutes of an executive session. The participants are privy. You have 8-year term limits. Beyond those 8 years, who would be privy to those minutes?
The way, no case law on it. It's not, really clear. Talked to a few attorneys when this question actually came up earlier, and the thought is the written minutes are the city commission's written minutes, and the members of the city commission who are then members of the city commission have access to them. If you were a city commissioner back in 1992, and it's now 2010, you don't get to go look at the minutes. It's the current members of the city council or city commission who get to look at them.
Commissioner West.
So then what is the reason, if nobody else can look at it after you're termed out in 8 years, we need to keep it?
Well,
Did I miss something?
The current commission can look
so
all
if
the way
you were
back
on the
and-
commission in 2010 and an issue comes before the city commission in 2020, and you're no longer even in the city, the members of the city commission in 2020 would be able to go back and look at the minutes of the executive session.
Mr. Neely.
Call the question.
Okay, are you ready to vote? All right. Nancy, the vote, please.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely? Commissioner West?
No.
Mayor Norris?
Motion passes 3-2. Okay, next item is the consent agenda, I believe. Oops. It just left.
Move approval.
I actually, as far as the consent agenda, I have an edit to some minutes.
Oh dear. Consent agenda's not coming up as anything under it held on here. Yes, we'll have to, because we can't do that. So, let's take item, which is the one you need to pull off?
He's pulling 8.
8B.
Okay, then I would like a motion on A and C on the consent agenda, please. Commissioner West.
I move approval of items 8A and 8C on the consent agenda.
I need a second, please. Moved by Commissioner West, seconded by Commissioner Neely for the consent agenda. Nancy, the vote.
Commissioner Smith? Aye. Commissioner Nocita?
Aye.
Commissioner Neely?
Aye.
Commissioner West?
Aye.
Mayor Norris?
Motion passes 5-0. Now we'll consider the minutes of August the 5th. Commissioner Nocita?
Yes. This is the joint work session we had with Clackamas Heritage Partners. And I just want to point out that during that meeting, at the very end of the meeting, I asked the question as to how much what CHP was suggesting, the funds they needed. In the minutes here, in the penultimate paragraph, says Commissioner Neely gave ideas for keeping the museums open for school field trips, especially the McLaughlin House. And then just mentioned Jack Hammond of CHP said they could only stay open until September 15th without an infusion of funds. He said they need more income from the city and county while these discussions took place. I asked during that discussion, and it is on the tape, how much, what was, I asked about a specific dollar figure as what it was going to cost to keep open, and Mr. Porter did in fact respond to that, and I would like those reflected in that, the question and the response reflected in the minutes.
You're not putting Mr. Porter's response, but you're talking about your question.
I'm asking about my question and Mr. Porter's response, because either Mr. Porter or Mr. Fowler gave a very detailed response to that question.
Okay, we can check the minutes on that. So with that addition, we have a motion for approval, please.
Can we bring back the minutes with the inclusion?
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
that's
let's do
probably
that.
better
I
to
think
do
that's
that.
better.
To hold these over.
Yep.
Okay, good idea. All right, let's concludes our business agenda. Let's move into communications. First, City Manager.
Madam Mayor, members of the Commission, I do have a few items this evening, and first I have a couple of department head reports I need to have given to you, and I'm going to first call on Mr. Leffler to talk a little bit with you about the city manager search.
Sure. Come on up front.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Wanted to inform you this evening that, as requested, the recruitment, the job announcement for the city manager was posted. We posted it on the International City County Management Association, ICMA website, which is a large professional organization for public sector folks. Posted it on the League of Oregon Cities and the League of California Cities website, as well as our own. The projected timeline is still, as we discussed at our last meeting, we'll have it open until January 12th, at which time we'll begin reviewing applicants for qualifications. Actually, we'll be reviewing before that, but we won't start the actual screening process coming down to the finalists until after that point. And we're looking at the week of January 25th for the initial first interviews. Subject to any questions, that concludes my brief.
All right, thank you.
Next, I want to call on Ms. Crushhour. You had asked some questions in regards to some work that was taking place around the falls there at Singer Hill. So,
yes, actually, both myself, I can't think of the right grammar right now, but Scott Archer and I would probably jointly cover this, but the project that you saw occur with the clearing of the invasive, I'll call them noxious invasive weeds, primarily blackberry and ivy, was done in an effort to save the trees, number one, and also to clear out a view for Singer Falls. We had received a lot of requests from sort of a wide variety of individuals saying, oh man, those falls, you can't even see them and they're so beautiful. And when we had cleared one of the walls for the promenade project, we also realized how fabulous that basalt wall is there. And Mr. Archer and myself and John Lewis and Larry Potter all met out there and tried to strategize an economical approach to doing the work. And then John Lewis hired an arborist to help select particular limbs that would be important to save to make sure we weren't losing some of the shade of the falls in the hot weather when we have leaves on the trees. And he also, we selectively thinned out some trees that were vine maples that had grown up voluntarily. And then there was the tree that a lot of people noticed, which was actually lying on the ground. I talked to Jim Birch to kind of make sure I had all the correct information. And that was a tree that had already bent over and lying on the ground because it had been choked in the, either blackberries or ivy, probably ivy. And so they just chopped it off right down at the base because it was already choked. And we're hoping that the trees that are remaining will, we're hoping that the ivy that's grown up above, because what we did was we chopped it down below, hoping that then what's above will die on its own. And we hope that there's still some life preserved in those trees. The other thing that we would like to do in the future is to plant some better understory with the hopes of maybe ferns and snowberries, and I'm not an expert on understory, but I understand the concepts of the habitat and the ecology. So that's another phase, and we haven't developed a funding source for it yet, but we'll be working on that. We did the thinning primarily and the removal primarily with Clackamas County, the corrections crews, and it's actually a really fabulous program. Having met out there with one of the crews and the sheriff, it's a program that the inmates really appreciate. They really like to get out there and do some good work. So it's a win-win for everybody because those costs are nominal. And then our street crew did a lot of work out there as well, and working with the arborist. The other thing that happened to work out was Union Pacific Railroad was down there doing their own vegetation control along the railroad tracks, and so a lot of the materials that we had kind of pushed down the slope, they agreed to take away for us. So that was just good timing, I think. Now, one of the other concerns that you have expressed is the cracking in the ledges of the historic preservation work that's been done on the grand staircase and even on the promenade. We are preparing a letter from the engineer for the project that is summarizes interviews with the contractor, who's an expert on historic preservation, which we'll have for you. We didn't have it for you tonight, but much of the cracking you see on the actually on the grand staircase is from previous phase work, and those cracks actually developed years ago, shortly after the phase 1 work was done, and then they've continued to develop through time. In a nutshell, what the contractor's response is that those really, you can, the kind of materials that were used back then and the sizes of those slabs on top of the basalt and on top of the pillars are such that they will crack. And ways to avoid that is to put in essentially joints to what you do with concrete to help a crack form where you want it to form, and it's somewhat disguised with a joint and or even a groove. So that we find is not consistent with historic styling of that of the wall and of the columns. So there's some kind of wrestling you have to do with how far do you take the historic preservation. But we will have more detailed on that with a memo to you regarding the concrete itself. And then, Scott, did you want to add anything about the vegetation removal or some of the aspects of replanting?
He's not picking you up. Okay. We'll get the microphones figured out here. At any rate, it was just good collaboration between our two departments and our couple of other staff, and I just want to reiterate what Nancy already said, that it was just a management decision to do some basic maintenance, and also I think we were attempting to meet one of the needs of, or a request that was made by a lot of folks that I heard from, and I think Nancy may have heard from some as well, from the downtown business community. So,
Nacita.
So I just want to confirm for the record from Ms. Crosshauer and Mr. Archer that there will be no tree removal on either side of Singer Creek Falls.
We have no plans for, we're done with our project. There's, as you know, we did a little field trip the other day, and you had expressed an interest in continuing the invasive species removal towards the north. And we were focusing on that area because it was so close to the promenade, and because we were focusing on trying to open up some views of the falls.
I understand that, but I want to get a clear confirmation that there will be no tree removal on either side of
We have
Singer.
no plans for that.
I think there are any
That was
plans
never
to do that,
part of- what we plan to do is done.
At the current time, there aren't any plans to do that, so.
Okay, I hear a little qualifier there, at this time. What is that about?
It's just a
We're
maintenance issue.
finished with this project at this time. If another project were to come up, that's something that had to be looked at. We have no plans for that, but if what you're asking is now and forevermore there will not be a tree move, I don't think any of us can guarantee that's going to happen. But we have no plans to do that at this time.
I just request consultation to the city commission if it does come up in the future before anything like that takes place.
That particular area or other areas in the city as well? Because there's often times where we have hazardous trees, and we'd like a little more direction on
My
that.
request right now is specifically
That particular area?
towards, yes, the
And
Singer
so
Hill.
down to where Singer Hill comes down to the railroad tracks, and then up
To the
all
elevator.
the way down
sorry.
to the tunnel, kind of, or?
Yeah.
To the elevator? Okay.
Oh, Commissioner Neely. I was on the wrong screen, sorry.
Mine's green.
I'm going to have mine too.
Anyway,
You're not in the right place.
first of all, I heard nothing but praise, not only from
Good.
downtown residents, but from people that are actually interested in environmental issues. When you're looking, and I think it's critical throughout the city, when you're looking at developing a indigenous understory, it's no easy task. And what you've got to do initially is when you make those plantings, you've got to put down something. Burlap bags are used. I know that Mr. Potter and I think Mr. Lewis had some discussions about using used carpeting or something to put underneath there to cut down the light from getting down to the English ivy. Even if you cut down below, it's going to move in again. And you really got to keep that up over time until the understory you put up there produces enough shade to, I'm not going to say hold back the English ivy. I mean, it is a shade-tolerant species, but it's quite a battle. But the point is just simply planting sword ferns and planting Oregon grape does grow in the shade, but I think you'll find all over the place that the snowberry is doing quite well where it is. We've got a lot of our spaces that we have a lot of English ivy still have some snowberry in there, but you got to get it really established and not let that English ivy come back for some time. I do want to comment on public property, and I think you're probably looking at projects in terms of riparian areas. We've got Japanese knotweed is invading our public properties, and so that's really tricky because branches hit the ground and they'll root, and so that's a really big problem species. So it's not an easy thing to tackle. I wanted to make one other comment. I've mentioned this to you personally. There's two different species of Oregon grape. One is a horizontal growing one. One is a vertically, well, it's short, but it also grows out vertically. And I think there's good reasons for using both of them, but for different circumstances. And my impression is that most of the plantings along the sidewalks and parking strips that have occurred on Washington Street are the vertical ones. They're not going to provide the ground cover that I think you want to keep the weeds down and so forth. So whoever you bring in to do these kinds of plantings, they need to consider what the intent of the plantings are. And the use of those two species, I think, are different. And so that's something that we need to take into consideration.
Okay. Please continue.
Yes, you will also, if you look under the city manager's report, you will find a written report. There are a number of items on there that you probably wish to scan. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer. Let me just kind of give you a quick scan of those. There's just letting you know that we're doing some analyzing in regards to whether we can add backlinks to Warner Milne Road between Lynn and Molalla. That's going to be an interesting look because to add those, we'll have to remove the center turn lane there, and so we'll go through and really look at that, trying to give a balance to all modes of transportation as well as safety considerations in doing that. Just making you aware of a number of grants that we have underway. As Ms. Crushhour alluded to, we do have one on downtown circulation. There was a report last evening, at least kind of some preliminary initial impressions and some additional public input on that. We've also applied for a DLCD grant. That's looking again at development in North End. One of the things we're going to need to look at is probably all these different ideas and go back and talk a little bit about economic development strategy. I think you're getting more plans versus an implementation strategy of any one, but we'll need to look at that. And then we're also applying for a CETA grant, that's construction excise tax grant, to look at some North End or South End gateway improvements as well. Police contract negotiations are beginning, and as soon as we kind of have some of those preliminary meetings, we'll be briefing the City Commission on that. That'll probably come in probably late January. We'll get to you maybe early February in terms of how those are moving along. Mr. Leffler has already reported on city manager recruitment. Chief Conrad's been working with LRS, putting together some ideas in regards to what we can do at minimal cost to make the maximum utilization of the old facility. Looks like we can do that for around $250,000, so we'll be putting together those bid specs and getting those out. Of course, those bids will come to you for approval before we move forth with that. I want to remind everyone of the open house. You also have a list of meetings and best guess right now topics and when those may show up. Again, please don't think those are locked in and concrete in terms of each of those meetings, but that's kind of what it's looking like right now, and just trying to move those around to accommodate everyone, as well as trying to get the preparation that's needed for those, so those could shift somewhat depending on what those needs are and our ability to get those projects ready for your review. You also, and you might want to look through that, and if you have some questions or things you think we need to move around, we'll try best to accommodate that, but again, a lot of it, there's a lot of preparation, and right now I can tell you we're kind of running from one meeting to the next, and in between there's just it's difficult kind of getting all this stuff, the background work it takes to do that. We just have a lot on the plate, so one of the things trying to do too is not get too many things underway before the new manager gets on board. It'd be a little bit unfair that person to be stepping in some of these projects midway, especially with controversy flaring on them, and that's a rough start for anyone, so we're trying to get that transition be as smooth as possible. You have a memo in there from Mr. Archer in regards to parks fee increases, which will take place on January 1st. I would encourage you to look through that. If you have questions on that, you can refer those to Mr. Archer, and we can answer those. I think you'll find those in line with kind of where other cities are at, as well as what our needs are as well. You have the minutes of the last Carnegie Task Force meeting, and the next one will be held on December the 14th at 7 p.m. at the Carnegie Center. There's a speed zone study on Beaver Creek that we're just beginning to kick off because of some of the speed zone issues that have been raised around Oregon City High School on Beaver Creek. And then there's still a lot of work on economic development activities. And again, if any of you we'll be talking with some of those next week, and then some of the others you'll find on that schedule when those will be coming forth. You had asked for an update on the rivers. We're in the process trying to put that together for you and be bringing that forward hopefully in December, but it may push back to January, just trying to get everyone lined up on that. And just a couple of things on a couple of administrative policies that we're working on. That by no means is an all-exclusive list of what's been going on, but that will give you some topics I think you probably want to be aware of. And Madam Mayor, that concludes my report unless you have any questions.
I have question actually of Nancy Ide. This is an add-on and wasn't in our paper packet, so where will we find it?
Exactly.
Will we find it on,
Normally would have been in paper form in front of you, placed at your desk. So instead, now we're going to be putting them electronically on your agenda. So if you click on, or just touch the city manager's report, the two attachments there is what he was describing.
no, my question is, when I get home tonight.
It's really late.
Sorry. How will we look at those?
Tomorrow, I'm going to email this to you.
Okay.
I got this done late this afternoon, so I didn't get a chance to do that. So I
we just
had
had a
Nancy
chance to
have it
look it
in
over.
place, so you didn't have a bunch of paper here, but we'll
Sorry,
email that
that's
to you. as well.
fine. I just wanted to make sure we could see it later.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, and this wouldn't necessarily go onto the agenda online, too, would it?
It will.
Then we would get it either
It's
way.
on there now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well.
this
so
is
we-
online.
yeah,
Yes.
And we put copies in the back if anybody's interested in that as well, so they have that.
So it's online, so do you need it sent to you, or?
No, not if it's online.
Okay, it's online, Larry.
I just need to know how to access it. I didn't know whether it went that way.
Because you can't get to this at home, but we'll get that email to you as well. Understand?
No.
No, it is.
No, it is.
It's on the internet.
The
Oh,
internet.
it is now?
Yeah, it's posted.
Then I'll have to email it.
Yeah, so it should be on the agenda for tonight.
It's not on the
It's
internet.
there.
He'll be
Okay.
able to tell you.
That concludes your report, so questions? Commissioner Neely.
Anyway, I do, it's a comment, but on the Carnegie Task Force, when we agreed to that task force, our understanding, I just want to confirm that's the case, was that the task force would report back to us when it had developed a scope. That is, we're not waiting for the very end of the report, but we want to get an update at a fairly early point, and I believe that's going to happen, but that was something that came forward from the commission at the time.
Crowd.
It is.
Oh, come on to the center.
It is
Music
on.
stop, sit down.
It is on.
It was on? Okay, well. Commissioner Neely, and as soon as I moved and gave Bill a seat back, then I got a question. I thought it was done, so.
I'll try not to call you out again.
Yes, that's our understanding. I think we need to work that into a work session schedule, which I'll have to speak with the city manager about the appropriate time to do that. You're sort of talking like a midterm report, kind of almost a thing?
You had, in your listing, you had developing a scope at one point in your listing. I think it was after that scope was identified. There were certain items that were listed. My recollection is the term was scope, and after this.
View that. We do have it. It's spelled out very specifically in our
And I think it was
consultant's agreement.
at that item point that we requested that we.
I'll review that and make
Yeah.
sure where we're at.
Okay.
And if that's what we committed to doing, we'll do that.
Other questions? All right. Then we'll move on to commissioners' reports. Does anyone have any from committees for which you represent us? Let me see who's there. I don't see anybody there.
Yes.
Okay, so I got to get there first.
I think the computer's getting confused.
Yeah, it's the computer.
Okay, Commissioner Neely.
Yes. I don't know how long ago it was, but in any case, I was to be a commission representative to Willamette Falls Cable Access, and Ms. Ashford said, well, why haven't you come up there and seen our operation? And it made me feel very guilty, so I did go up there and see their operation. And it's an impressive one, given what they had in terms of, and the building they've had. I think they're doing a great job up there, and I'm sure she would welcome anybody else to see their operation. I'm going to suggest to the city manager that he report back to us in terms of the Comcast contract that we're having, the implications to the contract we will have with them, but also the issue is there what West Lynn was going to do. And you may not know that, but you might know that maybe by the next commission meeting, because I think all of that's important to all of us. And so that's a request of you.
We actually have a meeting with Representative West Lynn on Thursday, I think it is, because that's been why we haven't we haven't got West Lynn to commit to the committee yet, so that's why we haven't made any progress, so, but they've been busy, we've been busy, so it's one of those issues, just trying to find time.
I just want to say, Oregon City's representative to the committee has gone ahead and looked at the facility.
And I agree. I think we were all invited to the open house when they first moved in there, and they've done a good job with it. Commissioner Smith, you're next.
Couple of things. I attended a meeting last night for Clackamas County Heritage Coalition, and which was a nice group talking about heritage. And my middle school math teacher, Martha Schrader, discussed heritage districts, so that was nice to hear from her. And I wanted to mention one thing about the South End traffic light. In the November 18th City Commission meeting, I had requested a look to see in the staff report that we were originally given for the paving project in South End Road to check to see if it specifically said in the report that the light was going to go back up. And since I know staff has plenty of things to do, I looked myself, and on our July 15th meeting, where we were discussing the contract, the whole project was based on the fact that we were going to save money as a city by combining two construction projects into one. And one of the specific things that it states in there to save us money was both in our staff report and given verbally, was duplications or redundancy in the construction, such as not removing the four-way stop signal head twice. Which means on July 15th, we plan to put the light back up. And it was, so that was I think that having that in there, we approved it with that in there. So, and since that was one of the major discussions that was going to lean us to voting on that issue, I think before that decision was changed for the light not to go back up, we needed to have been notified about that, or at least told about it. I find it interesting that the memo that we got on November 18th talks about how the county told us a year ago that the light should be removed because it was hit by a truck. But that wasn't told to us at the July meeting. What was told to us at the July meeting was it's going to go back up. And it was going to save us money to only put it back up once. Then after that, in August, September, apparently we're told by the county that it needs to come down again. Or, we were told the second time. At that point in time, we were hearing around the community that the reason it was removed was to save money for electricity. So I don't think that the commission has to approve every little thing in the city, but if that specific thing is listed as a criteria for us to vote something, and we vote it based on that, or at least partially on that, we need to go with that. And if it changes, we need to at least know about it and have a rationalization for why it wasn't put back up. But it was very clear that the plan was it was going to go back up all along. So I think it should go back up, unless...
You have a motion?
I don't know if that's...
No, it should be on another agenda, so staff can be prepared.
Do you want to put that on the next agenda?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There are three who wish to have
Cost
that.
estimate with that, we'll bring you a cost estimate for that.
Okay.
You might be interested in that.
Okay, next report.
We may not be able to have it by the next agenda item, by the way, because we're so very busy right now, but we'll get it to you when we can.
That's your purview. Are there other reports from commissioners? Commissioner Nocita?
I have a couple of items. First, I attended with Commissioner Smith the meeting last night. I think it was the Community Heritage Council.
There's,
Was it Coalition or
I hope I
Council?
got it right.
No, it's called the council, yeah.
Council.
Willamette Falls.
There's so many, and they're all so similarly named.
And I concur, it was a very good talk by Senator Schrader. I wanted to raise an issue regarding these commissioner reports that I've been mulling over and just having conversations sporadically in the community about. 3 of us are board members of South Fork Water Board. These commissioner reports are for reports regarding meetings we've attended as commissioners. I don't think once, sitting on this commission, have I ever heard a report from any of my 3 colleagues who are on South Fork Water Board. I don't think any of you have ever given a report on South Fork Water Board. I'm completely in the dark as to what's going on at South Fork Water Board.
Well, I can't remember the last time we met. It's been several.
Just 1 month ago. We just missed one.
Jesus, seems like.
Yeah.
I would like.
We can rotate.
I would like regular reports on what's going on with South Fork Water Board.
That's a good idea. Good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Secondly, question for Mr. Kreisman. On the appeal this evening, you had said there was going to be some wordsmithing still to do. Did we make a final decision tonight, however, as far as clocks, as far as 21-day clocks, et cetera?
21-day clock. What 21-day clock and
well, it should, not that I'm suggesting this, but citizens do have a right to appeal land use decisions.
No, I don't believe there is a final decision. What you made was a tentative decision, gave direction to staff that's going to come back with a final document with findings and conditions that are explicit. So no,
Decision was not a final
Not a final decision.
Okay. Thank you. Third thing I want to bring up had to do with something in the city manager's report, and has to do with the negotiations with the police union. Because I raised this issue at the conclusion of our negotiations with AFSCME. I mentioned the fact that Oregon law does not prohibit city commissioners from being on negotiating teams. And I wanted to raise the issue of having 2 of our members be on the negotiating team henceforth. And since we are confronted with the police negotiations now, I wanted to sound out sentiment with my fellow commissioners as to their interest in perhaps having 1 or 2 of our membership on the negotiating team with the police union.
I'll say I don't support it.
I don't support it either. I don't think it's good policy.
I do support it, however, I would never place myself on it.
Okay, I will take that as an informal straw poll of 2 head nods and 3 shaking heads.
If I might just make a comment.
Neely?
I don't know how you would guarantee the commission members represent the commission. I don't think it works in a negotiating setup. So whoever was appointed would be representing themselves, and I think that's a bad position to be put yourself in.
Finished, okay. Commissioner Smith.
Oh, that was from.
That's from
that,
before?
What I just said, yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone else that has a report?
Madam Mayor, I know this is kind of awkward scene because you're just getting used to it. One of the things that, just as I looked across, I noticed that you need to, is don't be turning the mics off and on. The balance of the system requires them to all be on, and that's, so once you're on, just leave them on.
I don't think any of us did.
No, I have.
Oh,
it's you.
Oh,
I'm
it's
the culprit.
you.
I thought I saw
Speak to
some others,
that.
but that's good.
Just to comment on that, it makes absolutely no difference if you turn your microphone off. You are picked up. These are wonderful microphones, and you are picked up by your neighbors or even those in the middle of the room. So they're asking, our AV techs are asking that you leave your microphones on for a balance of the sound in the room.
What's everybody think about the new system? I thought it worked very well.
I think we got a couple of things I think we can
Yeah.
work on, see if we can iron out.
I do too, but thank you very much, congratulations, and you were able to teach us. I think that's amazing too. All right, go Beavs, we are adjourned.
Excuse me, hold it, oh my God. You'll notice
It's
the
Go
reason-
Ducks.
The reason I actually put myself and took off because I didn't know if you were going to make a report. I do have a query of our lawyer about something else, it's not a report.
I will.
thought we were adjourned.
We
We're
were,
not.
but he put this up at the end.
Well, then open the meeting again.
Okay, yeah, I will reopen the meeting, or rescind the adjournment, and call on Commissioner Neely.
A few weeks ago, Commissioner Nocita spoke to the Chamber of Commerce regarding the possible hiring of a economic development coordinator. I think that's the name we gave to the position. Mayor Norris was there. I came to listen. Mayor Norris excused me. I said, I think I do have a right to be here. She said, no. If we're not in a decision-making process and we're there for information, we don't make any comments. I don't believe the quorum of 3 applies. I think the quorum of 3 applies when you have 3 members of the commission actually discussing the issue. But if you're going there for information purposes, and this is to the attorney, of course, what is the situation? I mean, I could always declare where I've been if the issue comes before us and what the situation was, and somebody else can make a decision as to whether that's a conflict of interest or it's an ex-party conflict that's going to give problems at a later stage. But I don't think I can be excluded from essentially what is a public meeting to listen to what's going on.
My thinking was that we essentially were deliberating towards a decision that, with the people in the room as well as those who were discussing.
I was not deliberating. You were not deliberating, I hope. But you were a member, perhaps. But the point is, I would not have been deliberating.
Well, I know, but you were present, so we'll let you talk.
Let me,
Yeah.
the simple answer is it's not clear. This has been a topic of conversation among city attorneys for a number of times. It impacts a lot of different areas, including email is where you see it arise most often. But, this is another situation. A meeting is defined as the convening of a governing body, of a public body, for which a quorum is required in order to make a decision or deliberate toward a decision on any matter. So the thinking is, if you get all those people together and there's something about the public's business going on, what does deliberations consist of? Does it include the talking amongst yourselves, or could it also be as you're thinking through on your own? And so if there is something where there's city business at issue and 3 of you are present listening to it, it could be interpreted as a meeting that would require notice and require other things. Something like that where, and let me get the specifics again. It was a meeting of downtown Oregon City, or?
It was the Government Affairs Committee of the Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce,
where Commissioner Nocita was making a presentation regarding the possible bringing on a economic development coordinator. Since I've never had that presentation made to me, I don't know what it was talking about, and I would like to know. I believe our mayor was there as a member of that particular body. I was not there I would not have been there making a presentation. I would have not been there as a member of that deliberating body, and I would have offered no opinions in the process. I wanted to know what was going on.
And one more thing, I actually was there to represent the process and the current views of the city commission. Yeah. Jim was there bringing in different information.
And I will update Commissioner Neely that.
I don't need the update now. I'm trying to find out whether I had the right to attend such a meeting.
Okay.
Let's hear from our attorney.
I think it goes back to the original answer, which is it's not clear.
In that case, I will not be excused by anybody from a meeting that I think I could be at, and I'll just make that statement.
Then I will never do that again.
Because I was very irritated.
Sorry about that. Commissioner
I will update Commissioner Neely and
Previous.
No. I don't want to update on the substance of the meeting. I just want to point out that I did promise at the meeting to memorialize my notes of the meeting, because the discussion of the Economic Development Coordinator has continually been put off. In my busy life, I have accordingly put off the drafting of my notes of that meeting. Because it's on next week's agenda, I will be preparing and disseminating my notes by the end of this week.
Thank you. Now we are adjourned.